is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers and a possible storm, 27 today. With the 6 o'clock news, I'm Mel Usher.
FIVEaa Extra offers clinical Pilates and group exercise classes claimable on private health. 6 locations. FIVEaAextra.com.
In a major escalation in the Ukraine crisis, Russian President Vladimir Putin is ordering his nuclear deterrence forces on special alert. Putin says it's in response to economic measures against Moscow.
The illegitimate sanctions everyone knows about, highest-ranking officials of the leading NATO countries are also allowing themselves to make aggressive statements.
That translation thanks to Sky News UK. NATO is condemning the move, calling it dangerous and irresponsible. Ukraine has agreed to send delegates to the Belarusian border for peace talks with Russian officials. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says the Belarusian leader, a Russian ally, has agreed all planes, helicopters and missiles will remain grounded during the operation. In other developments, Australia will fund the supply of weapons to Ukraine. Kiev's mayor says the city is now completely surrounded and all exits blocked by Russian troops. There's no way to evacuate civilians. And more than 100,000 people have attended a peace rally and demonstration in Berlin in support of Ukraine. Well, health remains the focal point of the state election campaign. Harvey Biggs from 9 News says Labor has made more commitments if they win office next month, this time at a rally by paramedics in the city.
278 extra paramedics, 72 more ambulance officers and 36 new ambulance vehicles over 4 years if elected at a cost of $107 million.
A woman's death at Kangaroo Flat has seen the road toll jump to 12 for the year. Her car left the road and hit a tree yesterday afternoon. The 23-year-old from Wasleys passed away at the scene. A 7th person has been confirmed dead in Queensland's flood crisis. Almost 1,000 schools are closed for the day, and there are more than 48,000 people without power across the state's southeast. This man lives in the Brisbane suburb of Rockley, one of the worst affected areas, and says he's barely slept as he tried to salvage some of his belongings.
Basically got everything out of the garage, the washing machine, the motor miles and everything. By the time I got out of bed, I had about 3 inches of water I was standing in. It came up that fast that I didn't have time to get the fridge or washing machine or anything out of the house.
And the Brisbane River is expected to peak between 8 and 11 this morning. Anthony Albanese is closing in on Scott Morrison when it comes to preferred Prime Minister in the latest news poll. Just 2 points now separate the leaders. The opposition is ahead of the coalition, 55 to 45, two-party preferred. Now to 5AA Sport, and it's good morning to Tom Wren.
And a very good morning to you as well, Mel. Adelaide and Port Adelaide's players will train today as they prepare for Saturday's pre-season showdown. That's to be played at Richmond Oval on Saturday. Meantime, the Crows women are sitting on top of the AFLW ladder following a 9-point win against Fremantle on Saturday. The Adelaide 36ers playoff hopes have taken a major hit after going down 93 to 90 in their NBL clash at the Entertainment Centre yesterday to the Sydney Kings. It was a bad weekend for the Sixers, who also lost to Illawarra on Friday night. To soccer, Liverpool has beaten Chelsea in a dramatic penalty shootout to win the League Cup. Scores were locked at 0-0 after extra time, Liverpool then winning the shootout 11-10 to take out the trophy. 3-time Supercars champion Scott McLaughlin has won the first race of his IndyCars career, taking out the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg in Florida.
Scott McLaughlin, he's got 56 Supercar
All over, take
wins.
whatever you got here. To the
He is now an IndyCar race winner. From pole to victory lane, Scott McLaughlin does it.
Yeah, great stuff, that call on Stan Sport. Australian Will Power joined him on the podium, finishing third. And Rafael Nadal has beaten British number 1 Cam Norrie in straight sets to win the Mexican Tennis Open. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Get amazing deals on Mitsubishi and used cars at Wayville Mitsubishi and Southern Mitsubishi, driven by Australian Motors.
Showers, a possible storm 27 today, a possible shower tomorrow 27, then cloud clearing and 28 on Wednesday. Right now it's 20 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Gliderall Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderall.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
5 up to 6, good morning to you. Welcome to Monday on 5AA Breakfast, the last day of summer and the return of the rain.
We'll have all the details for you over the course of the morning. We've got this promise to you as well. Everyone who calls, texts, tweets, or jumps on the live stream and comments on the program over the course of the day has a chance to win a terrific prize to see 360 All-Stars in the Flamingo at Gluttony. So just be part of the program and you can get along to see this terrific show. It's also got tickets available, gluttony.net.au. Over the course of the morning, we're off to the US before 7 o'clock. We'll chat with Frank Woodley as part of this really interesting adaptation of a British game show that's going to be here in Australia. Would I Lie to You? Looking forward to that. We'll head to the Ukraine after 7:30 and also we're crossing to Queensland where we hold cheap, David, our description of what we have today as rain, given that they're using a similar term to describe what they're having there, albeit with the new phrase, the rain bomb. I've never heard that before. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Will. Good morning, listeners. Yeah, scary stuff, very scary and indeed tragic stuff in Queensland, not far north Queensland, but Brisbane itself. The Brisbane River, which for those of you who've been to Brisbane is basically like a much larger version of the Torrens, runs right through the middle of the city. So much housing along it. The entire riverbank was basically developed from the sort of 1990s onwards. I can remember going to Brisbane during the 98 election campaign and then after a very long gap returning there a couple of years ago. In fact, it was when we went up, Will, for one of those ACRA Award nights where we got to come second again. And this is... You know, the river's going to peak between 8 and 11 a.m. this morning. Just heard that from Mel on the news. And like, wrapping your head around how much rain has fallen, but more so, like the guy who couldn't even save his fridge was saying, how fast things rise up there. It's something that as South Australians, we don't really, we don't really have, unless you cast your mind back to Mannum in the 1950s, most South Australians have got no frame of reference for the concept of floods on this scale.
The numbers are mind-boggling. So the peak flood, the major flood level is 3.5 metres. It's reached that, and as you say, it'll peak later on today, so that'll probably go up. The amount of rain in short periods just blows your mind. So today we're considering 6 to 15 mils forecast. That's pretty reasonable rain for Adelaide, and certainly this time of year, albeit it's been a weird sort of a summer. So at Kipper Ring they had 135 mils in 90 minutes. At Marumba Downs, they had 52 mils in 30 minutes. Over the last 24 hours in Brisbane, they've had 234 mils of rain. The amount of rain they've had in February alone, so just this month, that's Brisbane, 664.2 mils. So that's more than half of the usual annual rainfall. And we're talking about Brisbane here, not Adelaide. We sometimes can have a one-off rain event that ends up being 50% of annual rainfall because the annual total is so low. It's sort of... You can just get anomalies that contort the whole thing, but not in Brisbane where they usually get 1,200 mils in a year. It's just mind-boggling, and it's quite sad too because as Anastasia Palaszczuk confirmed yesterday, 6 people have lost their lives in this.
Yeah, 6, and I think up to 7 now. I think there's one more.
So it's now 7. When she announced it yesterday, it was 6. Yeah,
tragically, yeah. It's weird though. Like getting up this morning, it feels like we're in the tropics. I mean, it's looking at our rain radar. There's currently, at least the map is showing that there's quite heavy rain up north and across Yorks, right up the top of the Gulf there. Port Wakefield currently copping it. There's lots of yellow and red in the map. But just sitting out in the backyard half an hour ago having my morning coffee, you feel like you could be in Sydney.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like an Adelaide summer at all.
It was muggy. We drove down to Normanville yesterday, and on a day where you wake up and look at the forecast, it's the 27th of February yesterday in Adelaide. It's 32 degrees. We're thinking sunshine, beautiful, just be magnificent. And it was just bizarre. It was overcast. As you say, it felt muggy like it did today. Felt like rain was on the way. It is. Just having a look at the trusty rain parrot.
Nice that you got to leave the house. We'll go there.
I didn't want to rub it in. I was trying to avoid all references to outside life.
I went to the backyard a few times.
I didn't want to trigger you. You're out in 2 days.
Hopefully.
Free at last.
Yes. Everyone's still COVID free in the house, which is good.
That's good news.
Yeah. Yep, so we're on track.
What are your testing requirements these days? You have to go off and get another test, or you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do,
all right.
I think. Well, we've got rats as well.
Now,
tests everywhere here.
Moderate rain's going to hit in 30 minutes, according to my trusty Rain Parrot app here in the heart of Adelaide. So it sounds like that rain's going to come through relatively early today. something to factor in, but the Weather Bureau will bring us the latest information in about just over 25 minutes' time. It's 10 after 6, 8223 is our number. You can text us on the Telstra Store Mount Barker text line with a reminder that every single interaction with the program is in the running to win those tickets to see 360 All-Stars in the Flamingo at Gluttony. Short break and news headlines coming up in a moment.
Genesis Care and Adelaide Oncology and Haematology have partnered to provide patients with integrated cancer care services, clinical trials and innovative therapies. Cancer patients can now receive integrated cancer care, personalised treatment plans and access to support at all stages of their treatment journey. For more information, please call Genesis Care on 8228 6700. That's 8228 6700.
Okadawn Creative Industries is a First Nations business connecting Australia's ancient cultures with today's corporations through Reconciliation Action Plans. A Reconciliation Action Plan is an opportunity to drive change, be a preferred employer and build a dynamic and diverse team with greater cultural awareness. Okadawn can help you discover how a Reconciliation Action Plan can evolve and enhance your business. Okadawn Creative Industries, okadawn.com.au, bringing your story to life.
Now, I'm sure there's one thing we'd all like in retirement, and that's to live comfortably and affordably within a warm and welcoming community.
Well, thanks to our friends at Southern Cross Care, you can do just that.
Southern Cross Care offer a range of better retirement living options at locations and prices to suit you and your lifestyle. Right now, you can be part of these vibrant communities located in Goolwa, FIVEaa and North Plympton.
From beautiful one-bedroom units to spacious three-bedroom villas, all are well appointed and all maintenance is taken care of. Plus, you'll have access to a range of quality services from Southern Cross Care.
Villas at Goolwa start from only $371,000, with units at O'Grady Court in North Plympton from $71,000 and FIVEaa from $71,900.
So for more information, visit southerncrosscare.com.au or call 1800 852 772.
Do you think a concert pianist needs a builder's license? No. Does a chartered accountant need one? Nah. Okay, then what about a house inspector? This will surprise you. Right now, there are no regulations in the industry that say you must be a builder to become a house inspector. Mike Pearl from House Inspect Australia is a third-generation licensed builder, and his team is the most qualified team in Australia for house inspections. It's the biggest purchase decision of your life. Don't risk it. Go to houseinspectaustralia.com.au.
9 News is the one that's always been live and local. 9 News, made in Adelaide for Adelaide.
Gliderol Garage Doors new Platinum and Native Series sectional doors are here. Gliderol.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
13 minutes after 6, let's get into the news headlines on this Monday morning. As we've been talking about, the Brisbane River could peak this morning just shy of the historic level recorded in 2011. The Weather Bureau says the river levels could reach 4 metres when the high tide hits at around 8 o'clock this morning, just below the flood peak of 4.6 metres in 2011. Ukraine will meet Russia for negotiations at the Belarusian border hours before Ukraine knocked back an offer for talks in Belarus, where a large number of Moscow's troops are stationed. President Volodymyr Zelensky is adamant discussions are held somewhere neutral.
Of course we want peace. We want to meet and put an end to the war. Warsaw, Bratislava, Budapest, Istanbul, Baku. We offered all of them to the Russian side, and we will accept any other city in a country that hasn't been used for launching missiles. Only then the talks can be honest and put an end to the war.
I'll tell you what, early and unbeatable nomination for 2021 Man of the Year.
2022.
2022, rather. Yes, I missed a whole year there. It's a bit like that at the moment. But how gutsy is Zelensky? The Ukraine president, this guy is just courage personified. And when you think about his background, like I was watching all these videos of him that Kate tipped me into. You know, he's an actor and comedian. 6 years ago, he won Ukraine's version of Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, I saw that.
But, and he's a hell of a dancer. Like this guy is just a really fun, hilarious, entertaining and talented bloke who, what's the saying about character isn't made, it's exposed by the times. This guy is so gutsy. Like, You know, and good on him for rejecting the call from Russia to go up north to Belarus. Those guys are just total Putin sycophants. Like that country.
Well, that's what they want Ukraine to become. They want to put in a similar puppet, obedient government. This guy, it's phenomenal. You know the comedy show that he was on, the premise of it, I'm not sure how many people are aware, the premise of the comedy show we were on was that a guy who accidentally becomes the president.
Yeah.
That guy is the president in wartime, and he's inspired the entire Western world, not just the people of Ukraine, with his bravery.
But how much more courageous than Putin is he? Like, no one knows where Putin is. No, if you want to see Putin, like even Putin's closest aides have to have like not just COVID tests but fecal tests every 2 weeks to make sure that they're not carrying any illness.
And
he's got all of these
huge tables
that he hides in. Yeah. If you have a meeting with Putin, you've got to sit like 18 metres away from him down the other end of the table. Meanwhile, Zelensky's standing taking selfie videos in the middle of Kiev saying, "We're still here. We're not going anywhere." And
it's no wonder they've held up so well. It says so much when the people who are running the joint don't leave when they've got the chance.
Well, it's one of the greatest quotes I've heard in politics in a very long time was when the Yanks offered him a safe haven. They said, "We're prepared to evacuate you and get you out of there," and he says, I don't need a ride, I need ammunition.
Yeah.
What a great response that was.
Yeah, absolutely. BP will offload its near 20% stake in Russian state-owned oil firm Rosneft. The oil giant has come under pressure from the UK government to make the move since Thursday's invasion. The company's yet to say exactly how its stake will be disposed of, but will suffer a significant financial hit as a result. Be just fascinated to see the economic ramifications in Moscow. There were some pretty extraordinary pictures over the weekend of people already lining up overnight in anticipation that the banks wouldn't be able to transact correctly. So there was, what we call a run on the banks, people lining up at ATMs from the night previous, journalists reporting that in hotels there that they were being told to settle bills with cash because they're just not sure what's going to happen financially. The impact is going to be massive. Okay. And yet somehow Putin thinks it's all worth it. Sad news here in South Australia. The state road toll for the year stands at 12 after a crash at Kangaroo Flat. The vehicle left Redbanks Road yesterday afternoon, slammed into a tree. The driver and sole occupant, a 23-year-old woman from Wasleys, died at the scene. The road toll was 16 at this time last year. Labor has kept its lead over the coalition in the latest news poll. Anthony Albanese closing the gap too with the Prime Minister for preferred Prime Minister. So two-party preferred is a blowout. It's 55-45 at the moment, the opposition ahead. Mr Morrison is still just preferred Prime Minister, but Anthony Albanese is just 2 points behind. That's staggering because that news poll has taken in a period of the sort of uncertainty we were speculating a week or two ago generally favours the incumbent. International situation was deteriorating. It wasn't quite war in Ukraine, but things were heading in that direction, and the federal government was amping that up. They were pointing to this uncertain situation, these uncertain times. That phrase was getting mentioned.
I think though the last 4 days are much more dramatic than anything that preceded it.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking to Anthony, the bloke who was doing the landscaping here a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about what he likes to listen to on the radio, because he sort of chops and changes with channels, and he said sometimes I just find news and current affairs, it's just Ukraine this, Ukraine that. But now this story's at a point where you've got footage of the citizens of Kiev making Molotov cocktails in the street. Suddenly people go, hang on, this is actually happening. This isn't just threats and people talking about it. So I think maybe for ScoMo, like, the point now is, well, it is real. Like, this is a real problem. I mean, overnight, Putin put all his nuclear weapons on high alert. That's kind of serious. That's kind of significant.
That is significant.
And he's mad enough to use it.
Well, this is just it. I mean, once upon a time, you might have said saber rattling. Now, he followed through on a threat to invade Ukraine, a sovereign state with a democratically elected government in Europe. It feels like suddenly everything's on the table, and you're right.
But whether that necessarily plays into a surge for Morrison, I don't know. Because I think clearly a lot of people have written the bloke off, and that's what the news polls suggest, that they're not coming back.
Yeah, that's right. 20 after 6, we'll get to some texts following a quick look at the weather for today. 19.6 degrees outside at the moment. Top of 27 expected today on a fairly tropical sort of a day. Now the forecast reads up to 8 mils of rain. 2 to 8 is the latest information, with some of that coming through in the next 20 minutes, we expect. Tomorrow, 27 the top, with perhaps a lingering little shower. Wednesday will be 28 and dry. Thursday, 32. Friday, 29. Cools down for Saturday and 25. And Sunday, 26 degrees. Some texts on the Telstra Storm Out Barker text line. Tina says, just want to wish everyone happy birthday to all the people born on the 29th of February who won't be getting a birthday this year. Yeah. If you are someone born on a leap year, we'd love to hear from you today. Is it today or tomorrow that you celebrated? 8223 We would very much like to chat with you. Fred says, thank you very much. I was lucky to win tickets to the Faulty Towers show. It was a great night. They sat with some other listeners as well, Hugh, Andrew and Liz. Great show, great people. Thank you. No, thank you, Fred. Appreciate you being part of the show. I'm glad to hear it was a good night had by all. We've got a few other bits and pieces coming through. Each and every one of them, of course, in the running to win tickets to the Fringe Show this week. 360 All-Stars and the Flamingo at Gluttony. 21 minutes after 6.
Our public health system is under more strain than ever, and it's not just from COVID. Hospital capacity must be increased urgently, supported by safe staffing levels that are legally enforceable. The Marshall Liberal government have refused to commit to these actions, while Labor has committed to boost capacity in order to free up our emergency departments and end ramping. When you vote, make sure that you act to protect and boost our healthcare system. Authorised by Elizabeth DeBars for the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation, SA Branch Adelaide.
This is Brendan Nelson with a call to those Australians who care about the commandos and their supporting colleagues we sent to Afghanistan. Far too many of them were killed, leaving grieving and struggling families and children without a father. Many more were wounded, physically and mentally, and are now trying to rebuild their lives. The Commando Welfare Trust was founded by commandos to support commandos and their families. Visit commandotrust.com to make a donation today.
It doesn't matter what level you're at, from beginner to expert, the incredible team at Drummond Golf just love talking golf. Here's Shane from Drummond Golf.
G'day, Rowie.
Shane, is there anything you guys don't do?
We do the lot, from fitting you to the exact clubs best suited to your game and style of play. So you can also look the part. We've got plenty of clothing and we've got all the accessories to go with it.
Now, you guys have the best accessories. Seriously, it's like a golfer's wonderland down there. All the famous brands, and you also do lessons.
Absolutely. We'll get your handicap down. And don't forget, our driving range is there to hone your skills 7 days a week.
You're a legend, Shane. See Shane and the team at Drummond Golf, Enfield, Darlington, Mile End, Tea Tree Gully and the West Beach driving range.
It's about the destination and the journey when you experience Victoria's Great Ocean Road. Holiday Wonders presents Paradise by the Sea, a magical 7-day escape along the Great Ocean Road, taking in Australia's most spectacular coastline. Experience the amazing 12 Apostles, the spectacular opening day of Melbourne's International Flower Show, and the Elvis exhibition at the Bendigo Art Gallery. Departs 26th March. Book today. Holiday Wonders, Belair Road opposite Mitcham Shopping Centre. holidaywonders.com.au.
Woam Adelaide returns to its spiritual home in Botanic Park for its 30th anniversary with a birthday party to remember. Catch artists like Paul Kelly, the Cat Empire, Goanna, Joseph Tawadros with the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra and more from March 11 to 14. With a reduced capacity this year, tickets are selling fast. So make sure you don't miss out on Woam Adelaide, March 11 to 14. Book your tickets and see the full lineup now at woamadelaide.com.au.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube.
Gliderall Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderall.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
24 minutes after 6. Don't know if Stephen O'Halloran Hill, regular listener, is up yet, but we want to hear from you, Steve, because we know this information about you, and this is not, scary big information, but we do keep a dossier on everyone who calls in. No, we don't. But Steve called us back in January after we just came back from leave. We had a meat tray on the best things that happened in 1972. Steve's birthday was February 29, 1972. He made the point that it was his first birthday, and I think that, given the leap years, he's probably 5 years old since then. We want to hear from a leap year baby this morning. We know we've got Steve listening. Anyone else who was born on the 29th of February, give us a call, 8223 0000.
Steve will be celebrating his 5th birthday today by going down to the beach house, maybe having a ride on the Dodgem cars.
The Plaster Fun House, does that still exist?
Yeah, it's just down the road here.
Yeah? Well, there you go, something you can do. You can paint a porcelain, horse or something.
Yeah, doesn't sound like much fun to me.
No. Let's.
I thought the idea was you go in there and get plastered, but
no. If you've been doing that at kids' parties,
that's right. I've got it confused with the sports bar at the Goodie Park Tavern.
All right, let's turn our attention to sport. Tom Red in the 5AA Breakfast Studio with this morning to you, Rennie.
Morning, Will. Morning, David. Hope you both had a good weekend. Let's get into our winners and losers and find out who had a great weekend and perhaps who didn't. My first winner from the weekend, this one came on Saturday night. This was so good to see. Adelaide United 1-1 against Central Coast until the 92nd minute when this happened.
It's going to be returned by Kwande. Inside the box was Bar and Irakondo. What a finish! What a hit from the substitute. It's happened again to the Mariners. That is a bullet into the top corner. Remember the name, Nestor Irankunda. Adelaide 2-1, and the Mariners' hearts are broken in stoppage time once more.
Yeah, great call by Simon Hill on Channel 10 there. Nestor Irankunda with the winner in the 92nd.
He's a freak. He turned 16 19 days ago.
It's unreal, isn't it? Like, how good was that?
He turned and he's done it again. He's done it multiple times this season.
And that was a bullet too. Top corner. Absolute thunderbolt. So well done to Adelaide United, the men's side, and the women too. It was the Pride weekend. So I think a big overall win for soccer in this state for the weekend, the Pride Games. And Josh Cavallo, I see, wrote a tweet yesterday about it, saying how inclusive and how great it was. So massive thumbs up to football in this state from the weekend, and all those that attended at Cooper Stadium, outstanding. Scotty McLaughlin, the Kiwi, he's just won his first IndyCar race, so a great result for him. Very happy with Scotty McLaughlin. Sammy, my producer, is especially pumped about him winning his first race, so Sammy's doing cartwheels out there in the studio. I'm also going to give Josh Rochelle, fellas. I know the Crows didn't have a great result on Friday, but I thought Josh Rochelle, and I'd be interested in your thoughts, was a shining light for them.
I actually thought he was best on for Adelaide. Small forwards don't kick 3 goals and 13 goal losses and have 20-odd touches and stand out as players. It's generally just a position that's going to disappear when your team gets flogged. It was his first ever official outing in the colours, and it honestly looked a cut above. I couldn't have been more impressed. He looked sensational, and he's a lock for round one. Yeah, he was fantastic.
Get him in your super coach and your dream team sides.
Absolutely.
Just put him in there. And Rafael Nadal, what about this? He's just won his 3rd title for 2022. 15 straight matches to start the year. He is just evergreen, isn't he? How well is he going at the moment? Brilliant stuff.
Like he had COVID in December and didn't know whether he was going to play the Australian Open.
Yeah.
We're in a new era, aren't we, when it comes to when we think sports people retire or hit their peak. Because once upon a time you'd think, once you get to 3 in front, you're on the downward trend of your career, age-wise. But Tom Brady played well into his 40s. You're seeing Rafael Nadal, after a career marred by injury, do it at this point in his mid to late 30s. It's becoming almost commonplace. We've got to recalibrate when we think, and we do this in footy a lot. We send blokes off to pasture when they hit 30. He's 30. 1-year deals from now on, and he's got to prove it. Well, I reckon medical science has changed so much.
Exactly.
We're going to see guys playing for a lot longer in their careers.
And people know how to look after themselves a lot better.
That's absolutely right.
And you're spot on. Roger Federer's done it, and you can name numerous sports.
LeBron James. Yeah.
So many others that are just
Ralph
able to keep going. Kelly Slater, all of those.
Zip Zap. What about Ralph Suey? His footy career went over 4 decades.
Wow, that's
He started playing in the 50s and he finished in the 80s.
That's a great effort.
Sensational.
Losers, unfortunately, the Adelaide 36ers, they lost on Friday night, and then yesterday in a heartbreaker to the Sydney Kings. They went down 93-90, and we're talking footy. Look, it's only practice games, so I'm loath to get too onto clubs when things aren't going great, but West Coast right now, with everything that's going on, Jack Darling, injuries left, right and centre, they are copping it from pillar to post at the moment. They just cannot take a trick.
What's happened to that team? Did someone... It's like their powers got taken away like some sort of Marvel comic series. They went from being a premiership contender to a side. But the problem is they look uninterested.
They do, don't they? Yeah.
Did they lose the love of playing footy or something, that club?
And look, they are ageing a bit, with their forwards, Kennedy and Darling, but Darling, not playing at the moment, and he's being very secretive about it all. It's just not a good feeling coming out of West Coast at the moment.
It's the silly part of the footy season, though.
It is, though, and that's right. We haven't played any games yet, so maybe they'll turn things around, but it's looking like it could be a long year for the Eagles.
Good on you, Reddy.
Thanks, boys.
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers a possible storm in 27 today with the 6:30 news. I'm Mel Usher.
FIVEaa Extra Marion have a hydrotherapy pool now on site. Contact FIVEaa Extra Marion or head to physioextra.com.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has agreed to hold talks with Russia at the Belarus border. It will happen near the Chernobyl exclusion zone. It follows a phone call with Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko. Meantime, Russia's nuclear deterrence forces are being put on a special alert. President Vladimir Putin says it's in response to aggression from NATO.
I ordered the Minister of Defense and the Chief of General Staff to put deterrent forces of the Russian army on special combat standby duty.
That translation thanks to Sky News UK. Well, the White House has released tens of millions of dollars in humanitarian aid for Ukraine. Nine's US correspondent Alison Petrowski.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has questioned the mental health of the Russian leader, saying the US will defend itself and continue to call out Putin's lies. The White House releasing $77 million in aid assistance for Ukraine, a sanitation package including clean water and healthcare. Though with Ukrainian airspace compromised, it remains unclear how that assistance will be brought into the country. Growing concerns in the US of a potential cyber attack, fears that Russian hackers may try and target key pieces of infrastructure, including the electrical grid, water supplies or gas pipelines.
BP will offload its near 20% stake in Russian state-owned oil firm Rosneft. The oil giant had come under pressure from the UK government to make the move since Thursday's invasion. The company is yet to say exactly how its stake will be disposed of, but will suffer a significant financial hit as a result. Another life has been lost on the state's roads. A car slammed into a tree at Kangaroo Flat yesterday afternoon. The driver and sole occupant, a 23-year-old woman from Wasleys, died at the scene. The Brisbane River is expected to peak later this morning. Steve Barker is there.
Authorities are predicting the height to be 4 metres during this morning's high tide, which is within half a metre of the 2011 peak. Residents in low-lying areas between Ipswich and Brisbane are on high alert. Seqwater's Mike Foster said that he doesn't expect that any controlled releases from the Wivenhoe Dam will add to or increase the impact of what Brisbane is already seeing. Controlled water releases started early yesterday.
Federal Labor remains in the box seat in the latest news poll. The opposition is ahead 55 to 45, two-party preferred, while Anthony Albanese is now just 2 points behind Scott Morrison for preferred Prime Minister. And it's a wrap on filming for the next Indiana Jones movie. Harrison Ford will be back on the big screen for the 5th instalment in June 2023. Now turning to 5AA Sport, and it's over to Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. The Crows and Port Adelaide will hit the training track as they prepare for their pre-season clash at Richmond Oval. That's on Saturday. Meantime, Carlton forward Darcy Vesio has become the AFLW's first player to kick 50 career goals. Coach Daniel Harford says he was rapt.
To be the first player to have 50 is an accolade that I think they're worthy of. And it was great to see the players celebrate, particularly after the game with her the way they did. So a very special moment.
Audio thanks to Channel 7. Vesio kicked 2 against GWS last night as Carlton defeated the Giants by 18 points. She's now the leading goal kicker, ahead of Erin Phillips with 46 goals and Taylor Harris, who has 44. The result lifts the Blues into 9th spot, while the Crows are still sitting on top after their 9-point win against the Dockers on Saturday. Rafael Nadal's extraordinary start to the year has continued after he won the Mexico Open, beating Cam Norrie in straight sets.
Rafael Nadal is Mr. Invincible. It is a 3rd straight title in 2022 as his astonishing unbeaten start to the year continues.
Yeah, audio thanks to ESPN. The Spaniard's now won 15 straight matches and has won 3 titles to start 2022, including the Australian Open. And Liverpool has won the League Cup this morning after beating Chelsea in penalties. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Get amazing deals on Mitsubishi and used cars at Wayville Mitsubishi and Southern Mitsubishi, driven by Australian Motors.
Heading for a top of 27 today with showers and a possible storm. A possible shower tomorrow, 27. Wednesday, cloud clearing and 28. Right now, it's 20 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Gliderol Garage Doors new Platinum and Native Series sectional doors are here. Gliderol.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
24 minutes to 7, we're off to the US just before 7 o'clock this morning. Now, if I have a look at my Rain Parrot app right now, the latest update is that the rain is not too far away. A little bit of patchy rain in the centre of Adelaide, moderate rain in 30 minutes. It's coming from our west, and it's where we find Michael Keelan is on Yorks on holiday, but he's called in with a rain update. Michael, good morning to you.
Good morning, Will. Good morning, David. Yes, a lovely rain. It's just passed through over here. We're about opposite you guys, and I thought I'd give, particularly David, seeing his home, he's probably got about 10 or 15 minutes to get some lawn fertiliser out and throw it around on the lawn.
Well, that's good news. We'd be happy to hear that, David. You Michael Keelan saying you chuck some fertiliser on the lawn because the rain's coming.
Fantastic. I was just outside having a bit of a squiz, and it looks pretty close, as my grandma would say. The weather, there's not a single, it's still dark, but you can see the entire sky is covered with cloud. Looks like it's about to start bucketing down.
Yeah, it's quite an unusual, I suppose, cloud formation too. It seems to be swirling around the top of York Peninsula there by Port Wakefield, then coming down to Adelaide. But it's a good rain, David, so I'll be doing that for all of any of our keen gardeners to get out and throw a little bit of fert around the place. There's lots of puddles over here, so, I would have thought 5 millimetres, something like that. So it's a pretty good rain.
Beautiful. What are you doing over there on your holiday?
Oh, not really a holiday, just a couple of days off.
Okay.
Get away from the...
Didn't we get you in trouble, Michael?
Hey, mate, have you managed to dodge lockdown and COVID? How's your summer been?
David, been very, very lucky. I mean, we sort of, I suppose, being a little bit older than you guys, we play it fairly seriously, masks and all that, and hand sanitizer and the checking, the rats test and so forth. But no, touch wood, lucky. It's a bit of Russian roulette, though. Dare I say the word Russian, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah, we might have to cancel that phrase. You're right. Hey, Michael, appreciate you calling in, mate. Good to speak to you.
Not a problem. Good rain coming. Cheers.
Michael Keelan, who's most definitely not on holidays on Yorks this morning.
Only a couple of days.
Just a couple of days. Just a couple of days. Wendy says
Sorry about my late return then, Will.
No, I was trying to cover for you. You didn't have to own up. Only the live stream people would have known. I just had to clue you into what Michael had been talking about.
It was seamlessly done.
Wendy says always watch the live stream. You get to see a lot of behind-the-scenes action going on, especially with David at home at the moment. Yeah,
I need to do a Homer Simpson and replace myself with like those awake glasses that he wears.
You just have them sitting there on the chair with a pair of headphones on them.
That's right.
Wendy says it's raining in Gawler just now, so the rain well and truly on the way. The Weather Bureau's coming up in just a moment. Lots of texts coming through too on the Telstra Storm Mount Barker text line from people with February 29 birthdays or family members. Jane in Nord says, my son Rob was born 29th of February 1976. He celebrates the day after the 28th on the 1st of March. And Jane says he's a tall boy for 11 and a half. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Jane.
11 and a half.
Interestingly, it doesn't seem it's not uniform among the February 29 people when they celebrate it. Tina says, I'm 16 and a half today. I celebrate today because I was born in February. So Tina and Rob have different takes on when they celebrate the February 29th birthday, should I say. We need to get more information on this. I wonder what the predominant form of 29th of February birthday celebration is. Is it 28th or the 1st?
Well, there's two types of people. There's people who can wait for a surprise and people who can't.
Yeah.
It'll be the people who shake the Christmas presents will be the ones who want to go the day early, wouldn't they?
Well, let's find out. 8223 is the number. You can text us as well on the Telstra Storm Mount Barker text line 048008 13.95 is the number. Let's check traffic for the first time this morning. Find the cheapest fuel in an instant. Download the free My RAA app from your app store today. In fact, and Glenelg BMW as well. No, the Telstra store Mount Barker. The Telstra store Mount Barker. Excellent to have them on board. Mount Barker Central Shopping Centre, open 7 days. Let's check traffic.
Good morning. At Theberton, look out for road plates causing a hazard on Port Road near George Street. Speeds at 40. Darlington, works on the Flagstaff Road upgrade continue near the South Road intersection. At Myponga, look out for a smash at the intersection of Main South Road and Pages Flat Road. Got a bit of debris on the road, so take some care there. With cameras, Montague Road, Hectorville and Rope Terrace, North Adelaide. Lunch sorted at OTR. Their delicious $5 and $6 sandwiches are ready for you, and they're just $3 every Wednesday. OTR, making life easy. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
We lost Dad to prostate cancer.
Breast cancer nearly took Mum away.
My little brother is living with leukemia.
My pa caught his bowel cancer early.
Make your donation as personal as your story. You can target the cancer that's hurt you most with Cancer Council SA. Learn more or donate at cancersa.org.au.
There are nights when you enjoy listening to quiet, empty streets. Then there are nights when all you want to hear is a siren in the distance.
SA ambulance, what's your emergency?
Oh, but please help! My daughter's not breathing. I need an ambulance.
I'm organising.
The Marshall government cut $11 million of ambulance service funding in its first 2 years, leaving our ambulance service in crisis. South Australians are dying for more ambos.
Authorised L. Watkins Ambulance Employees Association of SA, Adelaide.
Wavell Mitsubishi and Southern Mitsubishi have new, demo and used vehicles with over 250 cars arriving from now until Feb. Hurry to secure yours now. Wavell Mitsubishi opposite the showgrounds and Southern Mitsubishi in Morford Vale. Driven by Australian Motors. LVD 80.
Do you want to be part of important medical research that could help save lives? You can help out and get reimbursed while at it. CMAX are seeking healthy males aged 18 to 55 to trial a potential new antibiotic for serious and life-threatening bacterial infections. CM1620 requires you to stay 2 nights and attend 1 visit. All eligible volunteers are paid for their time. Sign up at cmax.com.au. That's cmax.com.au.
Genesis Care and Adelaide Oncology and Haematology have partnered to provide patients with integrated cancer care services, clinical trials and innovative therapies. Cancer patients can now receive integrated cancer care, personalised treatment plans and access to support at all stages of their treatment journey. For more information, please call Genesis Care on 8228 6700. That's 8228 6700.
9 News is the one that's always been live and local. 9 News, made in Adelaide for Adelaide.
Gliderol Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderol.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
17 minutes to 7. Let's get some more detail on the rain that's on the way. Vince Rowland, Senior Forecaster at the Weather Bureau, joins us. What are you, Vince?
Morning, guys.
So what can you tell us? It's going to be a fairly wet old day, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll look reasonably. There's a good chance you'll see some good falls, particularly if we get some thunderstorm activity across the city. But there's a bit of shower activity around at the moment. So just having a look, there's been a few observations up around the northern suburbs of about 0.8 of a millimetre. Up in the hills, we've had some 0.4s and 0.6s. So a little bit around this morning, and there's some thunderstorm activity up around the Barossa Valley area at the moment as well. So there is a risk we could get some just a rumble of thunder around this morning as well. But then looking like we'll probably become a little bit more convective this afternoon. So more likely to see some shower activity around and thunderstorms as we head into the afternoon, but then easing during the evening. So there is a reasonable chance to see some good falls, particularly, as I said, with thunderstorm activity moving through. So we've got a range of 2 to 8 millimetres, and that sort of covers those places that could see a thunderstorm or two around during the day. But still quite warm today. It's currently sitting at 19.5 degrees, and we are expecting a top of 27 degrees today. A little bit cooler up in the hills of Mount Barker, 24, and Elizabeth, we're going for a top of 28 degrees today. As we head into tomorrow, look, there's still a bit of a risk of some showers around during the morning and early afternoon, but not expecting as much, maybe up to a millimetre, but still those temperatures remaining quite warm. After an overnight low of 18, we are going for a top of 27 degrees tomorrow, and then we'll see fine conditions on Wednesday, Thursday, temperatures warming up. Got 28 degrees on Wednesday, 32 for Thursday. Then we have a little bit of a trough moving through, so we'll start out with northerly winds on Friday, getting to a top of 29 degrees, but then we get a southwesterly change coming through during the day, which could bring a light shower with it, but certainly cooling temperatures down a bit. So we've got 25 for Saturday and 26 for Sunday at this stage. So, hopefully a little bit of rain around today. Good for the gardens. It is pretty dry at the moment, but, still remaining warm, and certainly as we head into the middle of the week, temperatures rising a little bit before a cool change.
Good on you, Vince. Thank you. Senior forecaster Vince Rowlands at the Weather Bureau. Let's talk with SAPOL. Senior Constable Kylie Simpson's on the line, and we was talking earlier, Kylie, about it was a pretty shocking weekend on our roads. Just take us through what happened.
It sure was. It was actually a terrible 12-hour period. It all started at 6:50 yesterday morning. Police responded to reports that a car crashed into a tree on Batunga Road at Echunga, and sadly the driver and sole occupant of that car, a 19-year-old man from Inman Valley, died at the scene. And only hours later, about 1:30, patrols were called to Redbanks Road at Kangaroo Flat after a Holden sedan left the road and crashed into a tree. And again, sadly, the sole occupant of the car, a 23-year-old woman from Wadsley's, died at the scene. So Major Crasher investigating both of those fatal crashes, and those two lives are the 11th and 12th lost on SA roads compared to 16 for the same time last year. But it didn't end there. About 6:30, police were called to a dirt track near Barclay Drive after a rider fell off their motorbike. The rider, a 26-year-old local man, was taken to the Royal Adelaide Hospital where he remains in a serious condition. So major crash officers have been very busy, and they do ask anyone with any information to please contact Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000. And, it's one of those things, there's not a lot that we can control around the world at the moment. Is there lots of sad things happening, but being on the road, how you drive, you can control. So there's families clearly that are obviously devastated this morning, yesterday, communities. So we just ask people to take care on the roads.
Yeah, no, very, very good point, Kylie. Also, a man has been found in a stolen vehicle in Kilburn.
That's right. About 9:15 last night, police were called to Churchill Road at Kilburn after reports a man was acting suspiciously around vehicles. So it's one of those things where members call us up, or members of the public call us up, and we so appreciate it, because when we arrived, we located a 34-year-old man in the driver's seat of an SUV. Believe it or not, the SUV was bearing false number plates, and checks revealed it had been stolen in February from Mitchell Park. So the patrol searched the vehicle and located more stolen number plates in the boot. So the man was arrested and charged with illegal use, unlawful possession and numerous traffic offences. He's been refused police bail and will appear in court today.
Good on you, Kylie. Thank you for that. Senior Constable Kylie Simpson from SAPOL. 12 minutes to 7, February 28, 1983 was the day the finale of this show aired. "11 seasons, 256 episodes. I suspect nothing new is going to come close to that, given the way short-run television programs popular these days. 105.9 million people on average tuned into the final episode of MASH. 121.6 million in the last 6 minutes, so they'd be US numbers. Just remarkable.
It sort of passed me by a bit, that show. I was a little bit too young for it, and I think my parents were among the few Australians who didn't watch it, but I know a lot of my mates at school at the time were talking about how their mum and dad were so beside themselves that it was ending. It was a huge show, and it's actually like a good example of how, and this is something that in the Netflix era has become commonplace these days. But the idea of using sort of Hollywood-level actors in television programs, MASH was kind of a pioneer of that in a way, wasn't it? Because Alan Alda is a terrific actor.
It's an excellent point. That was before its time in that sense.
Yeah.
You're right. It was obviously before my time, so it aired before. The final episode was, 3 months before I was born. But it was replayed, I reckon, every day I got home from school, it was the show that was on television. Yeah, Sam Daddo's in the same boat. So it was literally, it felt like I watched the whole run again, because I imagine that because there were so many episodes, they just kept on churning them through. So I feel familiar with it. But you're right. There was once upon a time that if you were a small screen actor, it was like the graveyard of an acting career.
Yeah,
the idea was,
right.
oh, well, you're a bit second rate. Where these days, if you're on the big screen, you're probably wearing, spandex and dressed up in a cape. Where these days,
that's right.
It's all the small screen stuff where all the real good acting jobs go.
Yeah.
All right, 10 minutes to 7, 8223 0000 is our number. You can text us on the Telstra Storm Out Barker text line, and every interaction goes in the running to win tickets to see 360 All-Stars in the Flamingo at Gluttony. It's back in Rymel Park, Gluttony, that is, for 2022, and you can get your tickets for the biggest shows this Fringe, gluttony.net.au, or search Adelaide Fringe today.
Make 2022 the year you take the first step to great retirement living with FIVEaa. Now is the perfect time to start thinking about the kind of life you'd like to lead. One that lets you discover new talents and create new friends while staying active and connected. The First Step team at FIVEaa are here to help you start the journey. Because once you've made the move, you'll wish you'd done it sooner. Search FIVEaa First Step today.
Everybody loves their country.
I'm John Miller from Harcourt's Real Estate. What turns browsers into buyers is that wow factor. And there's nothing that brings instant appeal quite like the unique elegance of plantation shutters. For a highlight that adds value and lifts the look of any home, there's no better investment.
Improve, invest and add value with quality plantation shutters by Country. Visit countryblinds.com.au for a free measure and quote.
'Cause everybody loves their country.
If you're a landlord or tenant, well then check this out. Toop and Toop have just launched an industry first. They're now giving tenants early access to rental properties. So tenants can now secure a home up to 2 months sooner and before they become publicly available. Tenants simply register on the Toop and Toop website, then they'll notify you of any properties that match your needs.
It's not just good for tenants, it's good for landlords too, because this innovation could save landlords hundreds of dollars. It means you can secure quality tenants up to 2 months in advance and before you incur hundreds of dollars in advertising costs. It's brilliant, such a great concept from our good friends at Toop and Toop, and one that's so important in today's rental climate.
So if you want to tap into this incredible tenant network, head to toop.com.au or give them a call today.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube.
Gliderroll Garage Doors new Platinum and Native Series sectional doors are here. Gliderroll.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
7 to 7. Some solidarity, David, from Graham on the Telstra Storm Out Barker text line, who's also in lockdown. He says, we're in lockdown in the southeast on a farm. I asked the cows to stop calving for 2 weeks and told them they wouldn't get hay to eat. And they just shook their heads in disgust, so I'm hoping I can sneak out and manage them without getting a fine. I think you'll be all right, Graham.
Yes, I think there's possible to do, contactless cow tending. I'm not sure if cows can get COVID anyway, can they?
I don't know.
Dogs can.
I'm not sure.
Ours are still negative.
They're still good. Have you been taking them to the testing station, have you?
I'll tell you what, it'd be easier to get them to cooperate than with Charlie the 4-year-old. My God.
7 to 7. Let's head to the US. Ashley Mullaney is right now at the White House for 7 News. Ashley, I understand there's a bit of a protest going on behind you there.
Yeah, you can probably hear some honking of horns behind me. That's cars that are driving past the White House with the Ukrainian flag. We've heard the Ukrainian national anthem playing here at the White House. There's hundreds of people here carrying signs. One of them in front of me at the moment is "There's Russian ship, go F yourself." That's a reference to the border guards on that island that had those words for a Russian ship that was trying to invade. Emotions are just so high here, and when you speak to people, your heart just goes out to them because they've got family members or friends that are in Ukraine, a long way away, but they feel quite helpless in this situation.
So, Ashley, is there any indication yet? And correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding, I think I read late last night that Joe Biden is going to be making some sort of address within the next 24 hours. But aside from economic sanctions, and obviously there was that offer made Zelensky to evacuate to the US. But what more can America do? And what more are we going to hear from Biden, do you think?
It's a really good question, because to put troops on the ground in Ukraine going toe-to-toe with Russia is World War III. I mean, Biden really has two options, either that option or to continue punishing Russia and making them pay an economic price for what he's doing. But he just seems undeterred. These sanctions are clearly biting hard, and Putin is quite enraged. I mean, I don't know if you've heard any of his address this morning, saying that he's putting his nuclear deterrent forces on high alert. I mean, just even hearing the word nuclear in this context is quite terrifying. And that's something that, you listening to analysts this morning, everyone is very troubled by that. It looks like Putin's back is against the wall here. His country is, further isolated from the rest of the world. This is hitting him hard. It is hitting his inner circle hard, the banking system. But the troubling situation is, what's the off-ramp? Where does it go from here? How does he get himself out of this situation? I mean, there's a lot of chatter that Putin really thought that he would have an earlier victory here, that he would have been able to overwhelm the Ukrainian armed forces quicker than what he has. Well, he hasn't done that yet. But, we find ourselves in a really difficult situation at the moment. The US ambassador to the UN was asked, did she believe that he would be capable of launching biological weapons? And she said she doesn't think anything's off the table with this guy.
Where are we at? How many sanctioned quivers does the US still have in its? How many arrows does it have in its quiver? Should I say, Ashley? Because I'm starting to lose track. The EU's just officially sanctioned Russia's central bank. The EU members have moved to remove Russia from the SWIFT international transaction system. It just totally cripples their ability for their banks to finance almost anything. Is the US in lockstep with Europe at the moment, or there are still some steps that for the United States to take?
Yeah, the talk is that behind the scenes today, the White House is working on another package of sanctions. So they must still have another lever to pull here. Exactly what that is, I don't know. But the challenge for Biden too is that the world is so dependent on Russian oil and gas, and Biden has been really mindful not to take any measures that are going to hit America's economy. And inflation's already at a 40-year high here. And I think he's mindful that, whatever the next step is could really hit America's hip pocket too. There's certainly not a desire for America to enter into this war here. That's not the feeling on the ground. But there's a lot of support for Ukraine, and definitely a push to supply as much military firepower as we can. And I think it's fair to say that America's in lockstep with Europe on that too. I mean, it was interesting just to see Germany yesterday reverse that long-standing policy of not providing deadly weapons to a foreign conflict, and they've now turned around and said that they're offering Ukraine 500 surface-to-air Stinger missiles. So the situation is changing hour by hour, day by day. But Biden says that his strategy of galvanizing NATO is working. And clearly, if Putin was trying to drive a wedge here, this might be a major miscalculation, because America, its allies and NATO seems more united than ever in the face of his aggression.
Absolutely. Great report, Ashley. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ashley.
Ashley Mullaney at the White House for 7 News. And furthermore, German foreign policy for the last 70 years has been irrevocably altered in the last 24 hours. They provided lethal aid to Ukraine for the first time after that laughable first attempt where they were offering them helmets. And now they've committed to increasing the defence budget in Germany to 2% of GDP. Now, if you look at the top 10 defence spenders in the world, as a proportion of GDP, Germany were the smallest by a huge amount. And that's a huge reason why the power vacuum is what Putin's been able to step into, that Germany decided to sit this out for a long time. But they announced overnight they're effectively doubling the budget. Could you imagine in Australia if we announced overnight that we were doubling the defence budget? You're talking about tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And they've announced it overnight. They've completely changed their posture in Europe as a result of Russian aggression. So the cost for the people of Russia, the cost politically for Russia, it cannot be worth whatever the hell the potential benefit that Putin thinks there is.
One thing that's so telling too is that the countries have got real close up and personal first-hand experience, like the Baltic states, and like your people, well, the Poles. I thought one of the best stories over the weekend was the Polish national football team just saying, "Stuff this, we're not playing against Russia."
Yep.
And they're just going to get shunned. You know, like whatever happens militarily over the next couple of weeks, the whole concept of Russia is going to become just a byword for utter repulsion for the civilised world, which is the majority of the planet still.
Lots of other nations too said we're not going to play against Russia. We refused to do it as part of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. FIFA are typically slow on the uptake. They've said this morning that they're not going to expel Russia from the World Cup qualifying. Instead, they can play under the RFU acronym. The RFU acronym can't have display the flag or play the anthem. How weak of FIFA. That's pathetic.
Yeah.
That is pathetic.
It is an organisation that has historically been run by actual fascists, though.
That's a good
in
point.
its defence.
5AA News is on the way. We'll take you through some of the stories, including the latest from Ukraine, right after this.
Online, on DAB Digital Radio, and on 1395 AM. Talking Adelaide. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers a possible storm and 27 today with the 7 o'clock news. I'm Mel Usher.
FIVEaa Extra offers clinical Pilates and group exercise classes claimable on private health. 6 locations. PhysioExtra.com.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered Russian military commanders to put the country's strategic nuclear forces on special alert. The BBC's Gordon Carrera reports the warning came during a meeting of Russian defence chiefs.
This was a very public warning by President Putin to the outside world. He was meeting his defence chiefs. He went there to say, I'm moving up the deterrent forces, which is the nuclear forces, to a special state of alert. Now, we don't know exactly what that state of alert means, but what it means in practice is likely to be that it makes it easier for nuclear weapons to be launched faster. It effectively puts them on a higher level of standby. It does not mean he's about to launch them. I think we should be clear about that. It's a very public signalling, messaging.
Ukraine will meet Russia for negotiations at the Belarusian border. Hours earlier, Ukraine knocked back an offer for talks in Belarus, where a large number of Moscow's troops are stationed. President Volodymyr Zelensky adamant discussions are held somewhere neutral.
Of course we want peace. We want to meet and put an end to the war. Warsaw, Bratislava, Budapest, Istanbul, Baku. We offered all of them to the Russian side, and we will accept any other city in a country that hasn't been used for launching missiles. Only then the talks can be honest and put an end to the war.
Aussies have dug deep for the Ukraine crisis appeal, donating more than $200,000 since Friday. Appeal organiser Diana Senko from the Australian Federation of Ukrainian Organisations says she's been encouraged by the generosity of Aussies.
Ukrainians are very, very patriotic people to Australia. And through the crisis appeal, when the Australian bushfires were on, we opened up the appeal for the Australian bushfires. And within 2 weeks, we raised over $70,000. It's almost like you do a good deed and it comes back tenfold. And that's what's happened.
2 people are dead and 1 has serious injuries following 3 separate crashes yesterday. Just before 7 yesterday morning, a car hit a tree at Meadows, killing a 19-year-old man from Inman Valley. Senior Constable Kylie Simpson has told David and Will a few hours later a 23-year-old woman from Wasleys was killed when her car hit a tree at Kangaroo Flat.
Major Crasher investigating both of those fatal crashes, and those 2 lives are the 11th and 12th lost on SA roads compared to 16 for the same time last year.
While a motorcyclist came off his bike at Gawler Belt and remains in a serious condition in the RAA. A 7th person has died in Queensland floodwaters. Jared Braybrook is in Brisbane.
The flood death toll has risen this morning, with a man confirmed dead at Fitzgibbon in Brisbane's north. The 59-year-old got swept away by floodwaters while trying to cross Cabbage Tree Creek Road by foot yesterday afternoon. 2 bystanders raised the alarm and attempted CPR before paramedics took over, but tragically he could not be saved. The Castledine man dying at the scene. Meantime, searches are continuing for several others. A man remains unaccounted for after being taken by waters at Goodna train station. Another is missing at Glen Esk in the Somerset region. Swiftwater rescue crews have been called to a group of children stuck in a tree at Currumbin Valley, and the yachtsman who was last seen at Breakfast Creek on Saturday remains missing.
Now turning to 5AA Sport, here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. Port Adelaide will be keeping a close eye on several players as it prepares for Saturday's pre-season showdown against the Crows. Ruckman Scott Lysett rolled his ankle. Sam Powell-Pepper appeared to aggravate a hamstring, while Connor Rosie suffered a minor ankle complaint in the 21-point practice match loss to the Gold Coast. Well, the Adelaide 36ers season is teetering on the brink after a heartbreaking 3-point loss to the Sydney Kings at home. Scores were all square with a handful of seconds to play when the Kings' Jalen Adams stepped up.
Adams, is he the man? Step back three. Oh, heartbreaker. Warm that plane up. We are out of here.
Audio thanks to Fox. Meantime, the Boomers' unbeaten run in the World Cup qualifiers has continued after securing an 80-64-point win against Japan. To soccer, Western United's back on top of the A-League following a 2-0 win against the Perth Glory. Adelaide United sits in 4th place following Saturday night's 2-1 victory against the Central Coast. Meantime, in overseas action, Liverpool has won the League Cup following a dramatic penalty shootout against Chelsea this morning. All 10 field players scored in the shootout, meaning it came down to the respective keepers, and Kepa was unable to convert for Chelsea.
And now he must score. Kepa heaves it high. And the ribbons are red.
Audio thanks to beIN Sports. Meantime, West Ham is up to 5th on the English Premier League table following a 1-0 win against Wolverhampton. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
At Theberton, look out for road plates causing a hazard on Port Road near George Street. Speeds at 40. My Ponga got a smash at the intersection of Main South Road and Pages Flat Road. Got some debris on the road, so take some care there. And Darlington works on the Flagstaff Road upgrade continue near the South Road intersection. Cameras, Martins Road, Parafield Gardens and Old Port Wakefield Road, our Virginia. Enjoy no join fees at Zap Fitness. Make this summer your success from only $7.99 per week. Limited time only. zapfitness.com.au. T's and C's apply. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Get amazing deals on Mitsubishi and used cars at Wayville Mitsubishi and Southern Mitsubishi, driven by Australian Motors.
A high of 27 for your Monday with showers and a possible storm. A possible shower tomorrow, 27. Wednesday, cloud clearing and 28. Right now, it's 19 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Gliderall Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderall.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
7 after 7, good morning to you. If you're joining us for the first time on this Monday morning, it is grim outside. That's the only word I can think of for it. It's after 7 o'clock. It looks like it's so dark, it looks like it's about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Is it raining in town?
It's cloudy. I can't tell if it's raining in town at the moment.
It's raining just out of town.
Sam tells me it is a little bit.
It's drizzly here in Wayville. I just went out the back, but it's grey, it's overcast. It looks like it's going to be like that for the entire morning at least.
It's bizarre.
But it's warm. It's warm.
Yeah.
I have shorts on. It's tropical.
Well, I never have to double check Mel because she's fantastic at what she does. But after she just said top of 27 today, I thought just looking out the window, I want to double check that. It still is 19 degrees outside at the moment. So. Somehow it's defying how it looks. Nicer than it looks is the best way perhaps to describe the day today. If it is the day you're celebrating your birthday because you're a February 29 child, we'd love to hear from you. 8223 is the number. You could win a 360 All-Stars ticket at Flamingo at Gluttony that are on sale at gluttony.net.au. It's a terrific show. We're going to give it away to someone who contributes to the program over the course of the morning, but we want someone who's born on the leap year to get a sense of you're a February 28 celebrator or a March 1 celebrator, because in the first hour of the program, those two camps were divided. We'll get to some of your thoughts on the Telstra Storm Mount Barker text line on that and a range of issues shortly. But let's start in Queensland, where last night there was significant flooding on the Brisbane River. The Queensland Bureau of Meteorology took to social media to share news that the Brisbane River at Brisbane City reached a major flood level of 3.5 metres. The expectation is that will peak at some point in time later today between 8 a.m. and 11. It'll probably be about half a metre shy of the Brisbane flood peak, but it's still got some rain to come on that front. An emergency flood alert for 140 Brisbane suburbs. Again, this is Brisbane. We're not talking about far north Queensland or the kind of place I was where it got flooded around Christmas time. This is suburban Brisbane. Mitch Robertson, if you want to have a laugh, look up Mitch Robertson, the Brisbane Lions footballer, video of him swimming in his backyard. Swimming in his backyard.
That is superb.
He doesn't have a pool. It's just
doing the Mark Spitz impersonation too, where he's got the goggles on, and he's got the rubber cap, and he makes it all the way to the back fence. Does the nice turn there against the timber wall, and comes back and declares that he's done a PB.
1,000 schools will be closed today, and the expectation from the Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk in Queensland is they will be closed for some 5 days. People are being urged to work from home. At least they're used to doing that. Koran, which is 160 k's north of Brisbane, has received 1,070 mils in the past week. 1,070. Adelaide generally receives around 800 a year. 1,070 over the course of the past week. The rain's heading to New South Wales. The levee in Lismore has failed, with floodwater entering the CBD there, and more than 40,000 people without power in the state's southeast. Have a listen to these people who are based on the Sunshine Coast.
We managed to get this boat today, so I've managed to go out and get some water because we don't have any running water. I had no warning or text message or nothing about this amount of water that may have to come.
So, I mean, we're about at the peak of where we would want to be. This is about it. This is about as high as it's been before. So I think it was 92 was the last time it was up any higher than this.
Hope it doesn't get much worse than this.
Oh, it's sad, very sad. You know, businesses are closed and there'll be damage and costs involved.
Now, to put those numbers in some context, we've been talking about rain here in Adelaide and the expectations of it today, and it being unseasonable and all that kind of stuff. We've had 0.2 mils.
That's right.
So,
and I don't think we're going to get 15 either. I think they've revised that down.
No, they've revised it down to 8. We need a greater range of. We've got shower, we've got rain, drizzle. We don't have enough words, I think, to differentiate enough between what we have and what they're having in Brisbane at the moment.
It's all relative, though.
It is. It is all relative. Let's talk about what's happening in Ukraine, because there was, at least in the sense of the rhetoric, a pretty scary escalation overnight. Here is Vladimir Putin.
Dear colleagues, you can see that Western countries are not only taking unfriendly economic actions against our country, I mean the illegal sanctions that everyone knows about, but also the top officials of leading NATO countries are allowing themselves to make aggressive statements with regards to our country. That's why I'm ordering the Defence Minister and the Chief of General Staff to put deterrence forces on high combat alert.
Deterrence forces is nuclear deterrence forces. Deterrence, the word there being, if you're on the receiving end, you don't know the difference between being a nuclear attack and the victim of a nuclear deterrent, you won't be able to tell the difference. It's basically the same thing. It is a frightening escalation. And if you think sanctions aren't biting Putin and Russia, that's why this has happened. That's why a combination of this and the slow progress in Ukraine to this point in time, where they expected to be significantly more advanced than they are now, is why he's upped at very least the rhetoric. But as we were saying earlier, David, the problem with this guy right now is where once we would have said saber rattling, today we say, well, maybe he's just crazy enough to do it.
Well, the expectation a week ago was that maybe Putin would try to take the eastern part of Ukraine. Now they're 20 kilometres from the Ukrainian capital. Nobody thought he'd go that far. And for him to link nuclear deterrence to not just economic sanctions, but the fact that Western countries, I mean, we were just talking before the 7 o'clock news about Germany is giving missiles to Ukraine. And we haven't got the detail yet, but Scott Morrison said yesterday, and he used the term without any explanation, but he said that Australia is going to provide, quote, lethal aid to Ukraine. Well, is Putin basically putting every country that does that on warning that he's prepared to use nuclear force against them? He seems to be hinting at it.
It's becoming increasingly difficult, I would have imagined, to sell the message internally in Russia that A, this is justified, and B, that you're not becoming an international pariah. This is not as though this is the old enemy, the US, arcing up. It's not the US and their old friend, the UK. It's not the US, the UK, and the UK's Commonwealth vassal in Australia. It's not those companies. It's not them and NATO. it's them plus Switzerland this morning are saying they're going to participate in some of the economic sanctions that's been talked about. It's Japan, it's parts of Asia, it's 90% of the Security Council. It's hard to say now that this is just an old grudge match. This is the world combining to say this is unacceptable. I don't, and as people are lining up today in Moscow and St. Petersburg and other places to take their money out of the bank because the bank can't guarantee transactions are going to work anymore, I wonder how long this can run for Vladimir Putin. And maybe in a scary sense, maybe that's why he escalated things. Maybe that's why he started threatening nuclear war. He needs something to give. Because and as actually Mulaney said before 7 o'clock, the difficult thing to imagine right now is what's the off ramp for him, which is the terminology people used to say. How does he exit this thing that he started in a way where he can save face and sell it as a palatable outcome? It's hard to see.
The most awesome part of this story, though, the most awesome thing about it is the starting point for Putin becoming increasingly agitated is Ukrainian resistance.
Yep,
led by the president down. I mean, there's people on Twitter, like there's a woman who was in a Ukrainian beauty pageant a few years ago who's posted a picture of herself with an AK-47 saying she spent the weekend watching YouTube videos about how you use a machine gun. There's that town square where there's grannies, there's families, there's kids stuffing styrofoam and petrol into bottles waiting for the Russian tanks to arrive. The other thing too, the Ukrainians, they do a good line in swearing. They're almost like our de facto, allies in that regard. Real down to earth, no holds barred, let it rip swearing. We heard the fantastic story out of Snake Island, where the Russian warship said, "Attention, this is a Russian warship. We are approaching. We are going to use lethal force." And then the Ukrainian soldiers, just responded over their radios and said, "F you, Russian warship." And I think that was the end of their lives.
The way that story ends has been disputed now, but yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's some suggestion they may have just surrendered, but certainly the exchange happened.
Yeah. And then there was the Ukraine foreign minister doing that doorstop yesterday, and the reporter said, "Do you have a message for your Russian equivalent, your Russian counterpart, the foreign minister up there?" And he said, "Yep, F you." Like, they're just totally just the ballsiest people on earth are Ukrainians, and I don't know. I just put myself in that position and wonder if you'd fight to the extent that they are. But it is truly something to behold.
Oh, they're inspiring people, and they've totally shattered the idea that Putin was going to roll in as a liberator, and that these people were going to welcome him. Which perhaps he believed his own propaganda a bit too much. Here is the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in a televised statement earlier talking about the prospect of peace talks. Now, this is the bit of hope that comes out of overnight. There will be a meeting on the Belarusian border between Ukrainian and Russian delegations later today.
Of course we want peace. We want to meet and put an end to the war. Warsaw, Bratislava, Budapest, Istanbul, Baku. We offered all of them to the Russian side, and we will accept any other city in a country that hasn't been used for launching missiles. Only then the talks can be honest and put an end to the war.
They did come to an agreement on a place. He wasn't particularly hopeful about how successful those talks would be, but said, as the leader, he needs to explore every opportunity to end the bloodshed and killing in Ukraine. And they will be doing that a little bit later today. So we hope that does bear fruit. Let's talk about something that I think will make people a little bit more happy. One of probably the most recognisable themes in TV history. But I needed to play the opening dung dung, and everyone knows Law and Order. Last Law and Order was on air in 2010, so we're 12 years removed from the last Law and Order episode. Well, it's back. It's premiered in the United States. Season 21 of Law and Order, airing on Peacock and Hulu, some services over in the United States. Suggestion will be then it'll come to Australia in some form or another. It's so popular, I imagine, it's not outside of the realm of possibility it gets picked up by television. Anthony Anderson is back. He'll be Detective Kevin Bernard again, as will Sam Waterston. Terrific Sam Waterston, great actor, as District Attorney Jack McCoy. Season 21, 12 years removed from Season 20.
So, well, just to clarify, is Mariska Hargitay in it?
I haven't read that, which leads me to believe that she won't be in it. So you're out,
Mariska
I'm guessing.
Hargitay, be still my foolish heart.
It's Lucy says it's the other Law and Order.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of the SVU one.
Yeah, you're thinking of SVU. Now, this is the original Law and Order.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right.
As you were.
Sorry. Calm yourself. Let's check traffic. It's 19 minutes after 7.
Thanks, Will. At Holden Hill, got a smash on North East Road at Grand Junction Road. Theberton got road plates there. That's causing a hazard on Port Road near George Street. Speeds at 40 k's. Maiponga got a smash at the intersection of Main South Road and Pages Flat Road. Bit of debris on the road and causing some delays this morning with cameras Anzac Highway in the Parklands and Kettleville Terrace at Kent Town. Amart Furniture's mid-season sale is now on. Save big on a huge range across living, dining, lounges, bedroom and mattresses. You'd better be quick. Shop in-store or online with Amart today. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
I thought I was too old to make new friends. You know, it's been a long time. I wouldn't know how. But when I moved to FIVEaa, I was thrilled at how welcoming everyone was. Now I play cards with my friend Jan, go line dancing with Lorna, and then we all meet up for happy hour on Fridays. Yep, I wish I'd made the move to FIVEaa sooner.
There's never been a better time to take the first step to great retirement living. Search FIVEaa First Step today.
I'm Dr. Michael Mosley. Much like a hybrid car, your body runs on two main energy sources, sugar and fat. Intermittent fasting encourages your body to flip from one to the other, burning through your fat stores quickly, which is the basis of our new program, the Fast 800. With our free 7-day trial, you'll soon be able to see and feel the impact of our science-based program. Sign up at thefast800.com today.
Adelaide returns to its spiritual home at Botanic Park for its 30th anniversary with a birthday party to remember.
The lineup encapsulates the essence of 3 decades of WOMAD. There's Paul Kelly, Goanna and the Cat Empire in their farewell South Australian show.
And as always, expect big acts on the main stages plus surprising stellar entertainment on the small ones.
And look, it's going to be back the way it's always been. WOMAD, it's been tied up with all the COVID restrictions over the last couple of years, but we're going to be back to the excellent 2019 model. Tickets are selling fast to this limited capacity edition of Adelaide's most popular music festival, so make sure that you don't miss out.
Adelaide celebrating 30 years of world music and dance, March 11 to 14 at Botanic Park. You can book your tickets and see the full lineup at womadelaide.com.au.
Under 16 years of Labor, South Australia was going down a rough road. Higher taxes driving up your cost of living. Our young people leaving to find jobs interstate. A re-elected Marshall Liberal government will build a stronger future by supporting businesses to keep training and employing young people. Why risk going back to Labor? Together, let's build a stronger future.
Authorised by S. Meldrum, Liberal Party of Australia, SA Division 104 Greenhill Road, Unley SA 5061.
9 News is the one that's always been live and local. 9 News, made in Adelaide for Adelaide.
Gliderol Garage Doors' new Platinum and Native Series sectional doors are here. Gliderol.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
22 after 7. I'm excited about this. The British version of Would I Lie to You is one of my favourite TV programs. So when I heard that there was an Australian version coming, I've been counting down to tonight, 8:40 on 10 and 10 Play on Demand, the Australian Would I Lie to You, featuring one of the team captains in Frank Woodley. Frank, good morning to you.
Hello, welcome. Oh, I said welcome to you. That's not my role.
Frank, it's good to be here.
Hello.
Thanks for having us, Frank.
Let's go with hello instead. Hello.
Are you doing a radio show too at the moment, Frank, just out of interest?
It's a much more efficient way to do it. You're going to air on my show while I'm going to air on your show.
So the premise of this show is pretty simple. You're just trying to determine who's telling the truth and who's lying through a series of stories that get told on each side, and you as the team captain of one will try and pick who's lying on the other side as they tell increasingly remarkable stories about their own lives and their own experiences. How familiar were you with the format, Frank, before you signed up?
I'm a massive fan of the UK version. I think particularly David Mitchell. I think he's just he's got just such a beautiful mind. The way that he can find any little logic flaw and like a particular angle on things is lovely. Lee Mack is incredible. I think I wore 8 pairs of socks when we were recording the show because there's such massive shoes to fill. But I think we might have gotten away with it. The format is so strong that just the thing of people telling those lies, they're either telling some extraordinary truth from their life that feels quite unbelievable and is entertaining as a truth, or some ridiculous lie, and you're watching them desperately try to make it up on the spot. Because when you flip the card, it might say something like, I don't know, I was raised by pigeons or something, and you think, well, that's a lie, and then the person desperately tries to tell that story, and it turns out to be true somehow. Or, you just can't, because that's one of mine, and I was indeed raised by pigeons. So you can never be sure. And can you tell that my mind has been broken by playing this game? My whole grip on reality, because really, it's impossible to know.
Does it make you better at lying or guessing who's lying in real life?
Oh, you just feel like your whole confidence that you actually know, because there were a couple of times where, somebody would say something so ridiculous, like, I raised money for charity by walking around Australia on my lips or something, and you'd think, well, that's clearly a lie, and then they'd show you the video footage of it. It's like, what?
Frank, to what extent do you need to be a student of body language? Like, do you? It's not just the telling of the story. Do you look for telltale signs like people scratching their face or averting,
you do, but the
averting
amazing
gaze?
thing is, but people are amazing at putting in red herrings and stuff like that for you. Even people that you wouldn't expect. There might be somebody who is a conservative, like a scientist or something, or an author or a chef or something. Someone that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be, a highly skilled bullshit artist, but then they've got this little bag of tricks where, like, for example, I think it was Steve Curry at one point. There's a game where somebody comes out and they're not allowed to speak, and it's like, this is Joan, and Joan is my, I know Joan because she something, and you tell some story about them, and only one of the people really has a relationship with them, and he just accidentally slipped in at some point, effortlessly and beautifully. He called her June accidentally. And then the other team was like, clearly she's not. And turned out he just put that in to throw them off. And it was Joan. So those little tells and things, people are masterful at lying, as it turns out. It's rather disconcerting.
It's a great format. It'll be a great show. Looking forward to seeing it, Frank. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for thanks. Bye.
Yep. Good to be here. Would I lie to you? Premiers tonight, 8:40 on 10 and 10 play on demand. So, Frank Woodley's the captain of one team, and you've got Chris Taylor as the captain of the other team, hosted by Chrissy Swan with special guests each and every week. It'll be terrific.
We probably know each other too well by now, given that we spend 3 hours a day locked in a room together, or today remotely, united for 3 hours chatting. But I think we should do that with each other at some point. Pick something from our lives, be it true or otherwise, and the other one has to work out whether it's nonsense or it actually happened.
There's almost nothing you could say about your life that I wouldn't believe is true, based on just the stories you've told over the years. Let's talk sport. Book your service online at North Point Toyota. It is the North Point way. Stephen Rowe joins us following a big weekend in all sorts of sport, as it turns out. Morning to you, Rowie.
Yeah, Penberthy, Will, good morning. I'd win that hands down. Hands down. Hey, crikey, I'm gifted at that. Hey, with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, I see sport have now entered the fray. Our Aussie swimmers today expected to announce a boycott of the two World Championships in Russia. We already see, the Champions League final, the F1, the Rugby World qualifiers are being moved. Fair enough, it is something, but I just wonder if we're doing enough. I don't know, Putin's nothing more than a mafia boss with nuclear weapons. He's a bit more bluff than he is anything else, isn't he?
I don't know if I think everyone thought he was bluffing right up to the start of this whole
thing.
Yeah.
But I always bring it to home. Say China just rocked up in Darwin. I like to think someone would come to my aid.
Yeah, you would. And I think the Ukrainian people would feel exactly the same
Exactly
way.
right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Disappointed in FIFA. They're like the ICC, Russia. Oh, look, you can compete under the flag. You can't sing the song. How weak are those two organisations? The two biggest sporting organisations in the world.
Pathetic.
How weak are they?
Yeah, totally lame.
Honestly.
The other thing that I reckon is fascinating is Chelsea at the moment, with their owner being one of the Russian oligarchs who's affected by the
Roman Abramovich.
And he's come out and said effectively that, well, I'm not going to directly control Chelsea anymore. And it's pretty much the Chelsea board are now going to run it. But he's still the owner. And now the Chelsea fans group, the supporters, have put out a statement saying, no, we need more clarity around Is this bloke still actually owning it? What influence does he have over it?
His words were, "I'm going to hand the stewardship over." No, he's not.
What does that mean?
No, he's not. Hey, the Reds won 36ers lost times to our Test cricket team. They arrived in Pakistan over the weekend. I spoke to Paddy Cummins on Friday. He's our Test skipper, and I put it to him: what's happening in Europe? Would you be in Pakistan right now? I mean, honestly.
Well, Imran Khan was in Moscow with Vladimir Putin, so maybe it's the safest place to be.
Yeah, and Jerome Randall was in the Ukraine. Fair dinkum. All right. Well, with China's itchy feet and looking for a stoushed out, I'd be. Hey, lot to talk about. The girls won. That's the AFLW team. They kept Fremantle to 2 goals. Are they the new pride of South Australia? I mean, they're looking down the barrel of their third flag.
They're unbeatable. Unbelievable.
Having a crack. See it fall.
Good on you, Roy. Book your service online at North Point Toyota. It is the North Point way.
G'day, it's Jared. The iconic Wavell Australian Motors Mitsubishi Service Centre on Goodwood Road is going through a rebuild. Now, while that's in progress, please drive into Davenport Lane to drop your vehicle off to the incredible Wavell service team, driven by Australian Motors.
Life sends us in all kinds of different directions. So if it's time for a new place, whether it's your first or your next, People's Choice will have you right at home. With great rates and flexible appointments, our home loan specialist can make it happen, wherever you are, because we're for easy journeys. Learn more online or in branch. Finding the right home is half the battle. Finding the right people to get you there is simple. People's Choice. Terms, conditions, fees, charges and lending criteria apply. Full details available on application. People's Choice Credit Union is referred to as People's Choice.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers and a possible storm, 27 today. With the 7:30 news, I'm Mel Usher.
Physio Extra Marion have a hydrotherapy pool now on site. Contact Physio Extra Marion or head to physioextra.com.
In a major escalation in the Ukraine crisis, Russian President Vladimir Putin is ordering his nuclear deterrence forces on special alert. Putin says it's in response to economic measures against Moscow.
The illegitimate sanctions everyone knows about, highest-ranking officials of the leading NATO countries are also allowing themselves to make aggressive statements.
That translation thanks to Sky News UK. NATO is condemning the move, calling it dangerous and irresponsible. Ukraine has agreed to send delegates to the Belarusian border for peace talks with Russian officials. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says the Belarusian leader, a Russian ally, has agreed all planes, helicopters and missiles will remain grounded during the operation. Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg has held talks with his US counterpart to discuss the unfolding situation in Ukraine. Australia, along with Western allies, have imposed further economic sanctions on Russia following the invasion. A number of Russian banks have been blocked from a global payment system, meaning they won't be able to conduct international transactions. Mr. Frydenberg has told Today Russia needs to be punished for its actions.
That's why there's a strong coalition of countries who are coming together to seek to isolate Putin and his cronies from the international financial system. Last night, Ali, I spoke to my US counterpart, Secretary Janet Yellen, and we agreed to continue to work closely in turning the screws.
A horror 12-hour period on the state's roads has left 2 people dead and 1 with serious injuries in 3 separate crashes. A 19-year-old Inman Valley man was killed yesterday morning when his car hit a tree at Meadows. Several hours later, a car hit a tree at Kangaroo Flat, leaving the 23-year-old female driver dead. While Senior Constable Kylie Simpson has told David and Will, a 26-year-old man is in a serious condition in the RAH after a crash at Gawler Belt.
Police were called to a dirt track near Barclay Drive after a rider fell off their motorbike. The rider was taken to the Royal Adelaide Hospital where he remains in a serious condition.
Health remains front and centre as the state election campaign continues. Labor's promising an extra 350 paramedics and ambulance officers, with an additional 36 ambulances hitting the road. Leader Peter Malinauskas says it's about tackling ramping.
And we've been announcing over the course of the last week, if not a longer period, exactly how we'll expend those funds, including announcing a key policy for our ambulance service.
Meantime, the Liberals are spruiking their proposed Riverbank Arena, saying the venue will generate hundreds of millions of dollars linked directly to hotel bed nights. Labor's retained its lead over the Coalition in the latest news poll as Anthony Albanese closes the gap with Scott Morrison for preferred Prime Minister. The opposition is ahead 55 to 45 two-party preferred. Mr Morrison remains preferred Prime Minister, but the Labor leader is just 2 points behind. Now turning to 5AA sport, and it's over to Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. Australia's Test cricket squad has touched down in Pakistan for its first tour in 24 years. The first Test begins on Friday. The Australian women's cricket team has started its ICC Women's World Cup campaign well, winning its first opening warm-up match against Sri Lanka. Elise Perry put in a strong performance with the bat, scoring a half-century, while Annabelle Sutherland's all-round performance was also notable. Sutherland says the team's best feature going into the World Cup is its depth.
I think that's one thing we've spoken about over the last few tours, that different people are putting their hand up every game, and we've got full faith in the whole batting lineup and every bowler as well, that they can play a role on the day. So I think it's a cool place to be in as a group.
The side will play against New Zealand on Tuesday in its final warm-up match before the first World Cup game on Saturday against England. To soccer, Liverpool has added more silverware to its trophy cabinet after winning the League Cup against Chelsea this morning. Scores were locked at 0-0 after full time before Liverpool won 11-10 in the shootout. Scott McLaughlin has won the IndyCar's season-opening St Petersburg Grand Prix. It's the New Zealanders' first win in the IndyCar Series category. And the Melbourne Vixens have won the pre-season cup in the netball after a thrilling 45-43 win against the West Coast Fever. The Adelaide Thunderbirds looked impressive, finishing in third place after crushing the Sunshine Coast Lightning 53-32. And that's the 5AA sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
At Holden Hill, look out for a smash North East Road and Grand Junction Road. Theberton, look out for road plates causing a hazard on Port Road near George Street, speeds at 40, and Myrtle Bank speeds reduced there. That's around the intersection of Cross, Glen Osmond and Portrush Road. That's for those works near the bottom of the freeway. Cameras today, Gawler Road, Virginia, and One Tree Hill Road at Gould Creek. REA members can now save 4 cents per litre per day at EG and Caltex Woolworths fuel and convenience stores. Search REA member benefits today. Terms and conditions apply. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Get amazing deals on Mitsubishi and used cars at Wayville Mitsubishi and Southern Mitsubishi, driven by Australian Motors.
Showers, a possible storm 27 today, a possible shower tomorrow 27, then cloud clearing on Wednesday and 28 degrees. Right now it's 19. More news as it happens on 5AA.
This is the sound of Julian's bargain price vacuum with deep express suction. This is the sound of Julian trying to fix his bargain price vacuum, which infuriates him deeply. Yes, this is the sound of bargain regret. When it comes to the important stuff, like insurance, don't risk it. Go to Amy instead. Who offers great value cover you won't regret? Amy does. Before buying insurance issued by FIVEaa Limited trading as Amy, read the PDS at amy.com.au. TMD also available.
Our public health system is under more strain than ever, and it's not just from COVID. Hospital capacity must be increased urgently, supported by safe staffing levels that are legally enforceable. The Marshall Liberal government have refused to commit to these actions, while Labor has committed to boost capacity and implement legislation that ensures safe nurse and midwife staffing ratios. When you vote, make sure that you act to protect and boost our healthcare system. Authorised by Elizabeth DeBars for the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation, SA Branch Adelaide.
Hey, hun.
Yes, dear?
Why is the mower by the back door? And the blower vac? And the edge trimmer?
Well, the weather is great and I want the lawn and garden looking like a brochure.
But they could all use a service before I can do that.
And you have just one job. Load them in the SUV and get them serviced at Stanford Mowers.
And then?
Feed up, hun. The backyard is all mine this weekend, baby.
Stanford Mowers for servicing. 590 Main North Road, Jeps Cross. StanfordMowers.com.au.
Here at 5AA, we're all about supporting local. Don't miss the Defiant, a celebration of rebellion and fierceness told through an explosion of acrobatic feats and phenomenal live music. Book now at gluttony.net.au. Gliderroll Garage Doors' new Platinum and Native Series sectional doors are here. Gliderroll.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
21 minutes to 8, our election wrap coming up after 8 o'clock. few developments out of the weekend, perhaps none bigger than the first news poll in sight. We'll discuss it all in depth. You might have your own thoughts. 8223 You can text us on the Telstra Storm Out Barker text line. A few texts too at the moment regarding rain that's coming down in suburbs across Adelaide. Sue says it's been raining at Christie's since she got up around 5:30 this morning. Morning to you, Sue. Gabrielle says just started raining in Hendon. And Robbins makes the point that roads are a little damp at Parkside. It's going to be the story of the day. Not as much rain as was forecast late yesterday. And we should update too, the light factor. It is slightly more illuminated than it was half an hour ago, but it still looks pretty grim out there.
Not much. Looking out the study window here in Wayville, and I tell you what, be careful on the roads, folks, because it's going to be pretty slippery out there.
So Robin, Gabrielle and Sue are all in the running to win tickets to see 360 All-Stars in the Flamingo at Gluttony. All you need to do is call or text in, send us a tweet or jump on the 5AA Facebook live stream and leave a comment. Every interaction just gets you in the running. A lot of people don't even know they're in the running. Gluttony's back in Rymal Park for 2022. You can get your tickets for the biggest shows this Fringe at gluttony.net.au. or search Adelaide Fringe today. You might have to search around for a bank or ATM. We talked about this in a national story going back a while, but the Times has some interesting data out today about bank branches in South Australia that have closed in just the last 2 years. This is not a decade, 5 years. This is just since 2019. 3 years, sorry. I'm still in 2021 mode. The number of bank branches in SA is down 12%. 32 branches have closed. 6 in the west of the state, 10 up in the hills. You get smashed up in the hills. 5 north, 5 south, 2 in the Barossa, York and Mid-North regions, 3 in the southeast and 1 out in the outback. So that brings the total of suburbs in South Australia now with no bank branches to 97. But the bit that surprised me more than anything, and it's borne out by experience, the number of ATMs that we've lost. 236, 31% of all ATMs have disappeared in South Australia in just the last 2 and a bit years. And
well, you think about it though, like how often do you need to use them now? And I know that about once a month I have dinner with 3 of my best mates at Wahing, this Chinese restaurant in Goodger Street. And that was one occasion where I'd always want cash because you don't want to be faffing around at the end of the meal with 4 credit cards, you know, divided it by, $70, $80 each, whatever it ends up being. So I'd always get an Uber in, get a taxi in, whatever, and get dropped off at the Commonwealth Bank ATM there on Goodger Street, but that's not there anymore. And I think there's still an ANZ, and I think there's still a Westpac or a St George over the road next to Barbecue City. Equally, there used to be one just down the road here from me near the Goodwood tram line, which was I think a Bank SA one. That's disappeared over the last couple of years. So if ever I need to get cash out now, I go to On the Run. You get whacked with the fees though for doing it. It's like $5 to withdraw money now.
And someone's needing. I'd like to see an itemised breakdown of what the costs they've borne are on that transaction.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's all automated. No one's processing that transaction anywhere.
But that's the business model for the company that puts that ATM into the service station, I guess.
Yep. Yeah.
Because that's the charge. It's not actually the bank.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
But the reality is, like like Mum and Dad did a mercy dash to our house a couple of days ago with some loaves of bread and some milk because we're running low and obviously can't leave the house until Wednesday, touch wood. But, Mum said, have you got cash? And I was like, no, who's got cash? No one has cash these days. It's 2022. And she said, you can probably just transfer the money into Dad's account. And that's the reality. You don't need ATMs when, he says holding his iPhone. I can just tap my bank app, send the money straight to Dad for the food.
Yeah, and a lot of places over the course of COVID decided that's all that they were going to accept. They weren't even going to accept cash payments. But
that's easier said than done, though, for our generation, which is more adept at using.
Sure.
There's a lot of people who still don't even like credit cards.
Yeah, absolutely.
And want to use cash.
Now, I've been chatting with Lucy and Sam. They're on the phone at the moment to Chris Reason, who's in Kiev, covering the war in Ukraine for Channel 7. Just having a chat with him now. There's obviously a delay, and as you might imagine, some difficulties with regard to connecting to people in a city now that, according to Vitaly Klitschko, the former heavyweight world champion and mayor of Ukraine, is now entirely surrounded. So we're hoping to take you there in just a moment. What we might do is take a break first and check the traffic situation, then we'll come back.
At Holden Hill, got a smash on North East Road to Grand Junction Road. Theberton, look out for road plates causing a hazard on Port Road near George Street. Speeds reduced down to 40. At Darlington, works continuing on Flagstaff Road near the South Road intersection. Does get slow throughout the morning. And a few cameras about today too. Jeff Gott Street, North Adelaide, North-South Motorway at Bolivar, and South Thuris in the city. Is your car making a strange sound? Book in for a Petters $28 brake, steering and suspension check. Get peace of mind today. Visit petters.com.au. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Hi, Susanna Toop here. Tenants, you're going to love this. Toop and Toop now gives you early access to rental properties. Hear about properties up to 2 months in advance and before they become publicly available, with email alerts direct to your inbox. No more rushing around to find something in just 2 weeks. With Toop and Toop, you can now find your next home sooner. So if you're struggling to find a rental property or you want to plan early, simply register now at toop.com.au/rent.
Home renovations can be akin to climbing Everest. Every step of the way can be torturous to reach your ultimate goal. Well, the same could be said for home renovations, but not if you go with Buy-Urban Bathrooms and Kitchens. The team at Buy-Urban have always believed the journey is just as important as the destination. So start your journey with Buy-Urban Bathrooms and Kitchens, Adelaide's home renovation experts. Visit buyurban.com.au.
Well, we broke the news on Friday that Classical Mystery Tour had won the Adelaide Fringe Week 1 Best Music Award. And no wonder that Classical Mystery Tour is one of the most popular shows at this year's Fringe. All you need is love and a ticket to that now award-winning Beatles show.
Big thanks to Dave Manier. He's dropped off a T-shirt for me that I'm going to be wearing tomorrow for the Classical Mystery Tour. Time is running out though. There's only 5 shows remaining. Classical Mystery Tour. It's an all-Adelaide 21-piece rock band and orchestra's take on the Beatles' hit-laden 1967 album Magical Mystery Tour.
And we're talking about the real classics here: Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields Forever, I'm the Walrus, Fall on the Hill, All You Need Is Love, and more.
It's getting rave reviews, and rightly so. These guys are the best in the business. Classical Mystery Tour, also known as That Beatles Show, 6:30pm, outdoor venue at the Moa in Gluttony.
There are only 5 shows remaining. Tickets at fringetix.com.au.
Do you think a concert pianist needs a builder's licence? No. Does a chartered accountant need one? Nah. Okay, then what about a house inspector? This will surprise you. Right now, there are no regulations in the industry that say you must be a builder to become a house inspector. Mike Pearl from House Inspect Australia is a third-generation licensed builder, and his team is the most qualified team in Australia for house inspections. It's the biggest purchase decision of your life. Don't risk it. Go to houseinspectaustralia.com.au.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube.
Gliderol Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderol.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
13 minutes to 8. We're heading to Kiev shortly for the latest on the situation there, where reports are that the city is surrounded. The hope is that peace talks a little bit later today near Chernobyl, at the border with Belarus, will bear some fruit and provide something, an off-ramp for Vladimir Putin out of the crisis. The escalation, of course, as you've heard in 5AA News, is Vladimir Putin putting his nuclear deterrent capability on high alert. He's activated it. People are trying to work out what exactly that means, but even the mention of nuclear weapons is always ominous, certainly in the context of a very live conflict that's going on there at the moment. So we're going to cross there as soon as we can, and hopefully in the next couple of moments' time. We'll check weather first. 27, the expected top today. That's right. If you look outside your window, trust us, it's going to get to 27. 8 mils of rain potentially. That part's more believable. 27 tomorrow and maybe just a drizzle around the place. Then it's dry on Wednesday and 28. 32 on Thursday, 29 Friday, 25 Saturday, 26 on Sunday. A few texts coming through, David, on the Telstra Storm Out Barker text line as well. A lot of people talking about the ATM story. One person just says, I always use ATMs and cash. Rob says, I've been taking cash out of the bank now for 2 years and putting it in safe places. I've become my own ATM. Well, thank you, Rob. Maybe some helpful advice for people there. 11 to 8, let's head to Kiev. Chris Reason is in the besieged city for Channel 7. Chris, good morning to you, mate, and thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning to you guys. Always a pleasure.
So the latest we heard is that the city is now surrounded. Can you just describe what the scene has been there in the last few hours?
Yeah, look, I mean, it ebbs and flows. It's been extraordinary to watch, but the mayor of Kiev is saying that he thinks that the entire city is now surrounded by Russian troops. Basically the noose has been placed around Kiev's head and it's beginning to tighten. Now, the extraordinary thing about this is, though, that this has taken the Russians so long to get to this position. The Ukrainian resistance, guys, is nothing short of phenomenal and almost inspirational, the way they have been fighting back these last 4 days. But look, the reality is the Russian forces are strong, well trained, well prepared, well armed, and they will no doubt march into Kiev. But it's going to be a battle. It's still going to be a battle on a street-by-street basis, and I think that is going to be a situation replicated across every town, village, and city in this country. The Ukrainians are up for a fight, and they are going to give it back to the Russians.
Chris, we've seen footage over the weekend of community events in Kiev where locals are sitting around in the town square making Molotov cocktails. We've seen people posting videos of themselves online holding AK-47, saying that they're going to do everything they can. Do you think there's a prospect that it could actually be almost like the city using guerrilla warfare against Russia in the very likely event that the tanks start rolling into the very centre of Kiev?
I couldn't agree more. And I think what we're about to see is, well, Europe's version of Afghanistan. We're going to have an Afghanistan in Europe, and it's going to last for potentially years, because the Ukrainians aren't just going to roll over and say, yeah, okay, Vlad, come on in, you can take the country back and go for your life. They're going to sit here and fight and make it uncomfortable for whatever occupying force is trying to take over. And all those scenes just painted, Dave, with the mothers, the women, the children, filling up bottles with petrol and flammable liquids to basically create Molotov cocktails. The recipe, the instruction guide, is on the government website, and the government was saying to its citizens, follow this recipe, go and make these Molotov cocktails, and the laughing slogan was, greet your Russian invader with a cocktail, a Molotov cocktail. and they've taken it to heart. They're actually doing it. And then, as you say, the guns that have been handed out by the thousand, every time we go out of our hotel set up, and we get pulled over every 5 minutes here by roadblocks and worryingly and interestingly by this growing force of just citizen soldiers who basically decide to make themselves authoritarians, like sort of SES with guns. They're everywhere. But all of these guys, they've aged 16 to 60. They've been given free guns. You just got to show up with a passport at the depot and you get your Kalashnikov and off you go. They've all got these brand new weapons. And it's scary in some ways, people with no experience of guns and no training, just grabbing these things and walking around the streets. But it's inspiring in others. These guys are digging their heels in. They're going to do what they can to try and fight for their country.
So what's it like living in the middle of a war zone at the moment, Chris? How much can you move around? How bound are you to what your accommodation is? How do you get information out from official sources like the Ukrainian government? How does it work?
Yeah, look, it's the information part is extremely easy and extremely fast and slick, because it's all social media these days and it's all mobile phones, which is fun and interesting. I've been trying to work out why the Russians haven't marched in and instantly taken out the communications and switched off our ability to report and people's ability to communicate and the enemy's ability to move their forces around using 3G and 5G and 4G, etc. But anyway, they haven't. So we've been able to keep operating on that front. In terms of the logistics and moving around, I prefer to spend my time, in smaller, low-profile places, not in the high-rise CBD towers. So I've been away from those. We're out in the suburbs of Kiev, and it's tricky. You've got to be extremely careful. We've got professional security with us. We choose the times of the day to do it. We've got really good local fixers who are tapped into social media and to particular apps and have their own contacts that know when we can go out, do our news gatherings, and then get back into the safety of the building when we need to. So we're running it that way, but it's dangerous. There's no two ways about it. I don't think I've been to a war zone more dangerous than this one. And the enemy is so intimidating and frightening. The Russians are not mucking around. They're trained professionals, and they're also... They're almost like they've been backed into a bit of a corner here. I think they've marched over the borders, 190,000 of them, thinking they were going to take over this country quite quickly, decapitate the capital city, the government, the whole caper there. But it just didn't happen because of this resistance. It's almost like they've walked into an army of 44 million, the population of Ukraine, ready to fight back. And they're sort of a little bit stunned. They're back on the back foot right now, and so is their president, Vladimir Putin, to the point where today, guys, I don't know if you've heard this news, but he's basically come out and said he's now put his nuclear deterrent forces on combat-ready status. Now, when a leader of a country, a superpower, starts talking about nuclear weapons, and if you go back through his history, he's never resorted to that in the 20-plus years he's been in power. That's frightening. He's looking like he's panicking. He's looking like he's extremely angry. He's pulling out the nuclear card, and we're only at day 4 of this war.
Rezo, what can you tell us, or what do you know about these proposed talks between Moscow and Kiev that are now going to be held near the Belarus border, which is the country just to the north of Ukraine that's very loyal to Russia and has been letting the Russians use the country as a missile base? Surely Zelensky and Putin themselves wouldn't go to the talks, would they? Because if I was Zelensky, I mean, given that Putin's shown in the past an unbridled degree of enthusiasm for poisoning his opponents, I reckon if you're the leader of a state that's saying F you Russia quite literally, as the Foreign Minister said yesterday to quote him, I'd be worried about turning up to a meeting like that.
Yeah, I think you and Zelensky are probably thinking exactly the same thing, mate. He will be as well, and that was the very basis of some very delicate and long negotiations to get to the point they announced today about these peace talks, because they refused. Zelensky said, I'm not going to Russia to do this, obviously, and Russia said, well, we're not going to Ukraine, and then what about we do it in Belarus, as you say, just to the north of Ukraine, and Zelensky said, well, you guys have been helping the Russians, you're just puppets of theirs, I'm not going to your country. So they've chosen the border between the two countries, the no man's land between the two countries, to have this talk. Now, would you turn up? I don't think they would at this stage. I think the foreign minister's marked down to go, but Zelensky's an interesting cat. He's been the most, he'll be Time Magazine Man of the Year this year, I've got absolutely no doubt. This former comedian actor who's turned into presidential gold, he's managed to just inspire this country and lift it to a place where I don't think it ever thought it would be, to be able to stand up to the might of this superpower. And whatever you say, Russia is still a superpower, and to do what he's done. So, look, Zelensky's an interesting character. Will he go to those talks? I don't know, but everybody is hoping that those talks produce something.
Have you got a sense, Chris, how close the fighting is to you right now? I mean, is there the constant sound of gunfire or artillery shelling? Have you got planes going overhead? How close do you feel like you are to it?
Oh, the planes are going overhead a lot. You hear the dull, thunderous thud of missile launches and rocket strikes throughout the night. Gunfire is sporadic. I thought it would be constant. I thought it'd be, like, sort of being ridiculous here, but more movie style. I thought there'd be with a force like the Russian Army and Air Force that we would see a lot more constant and prolonged engagement. But it sort of seems to have broken down into very guerrilla-like maneuvers and very small pockets of resistance and pockets of conflict that happen. Street-by-street fighting happens and it disappears. So you'll hear a lot of gunfire and then suddenly it's all gone. You'll see they target one or two buildings with missiles and then they stop. It's an interesting tactic and strategy. I'm sort of watching and learning as it unfolds, but it's always there and it's always frightening and everybody has a gun. And the other problem is, this one's interesting, you'll love this, guys, it's because the borders have been seamless and because the two countries, Russia and Ukraine, are so similar and share so much of their history and their cultural background, and so many Ukrainians speak Russian, there is that whole thing of, are you actually from Russia? Are you from Ukraine? You know, and everybody looks at each other and doesn't quite know who's the enemy and who's not. And we've seen, a couple of locals took us yesterday, come and see this. And on the street, just outside this, just about a street back from an airbase, a red cross in this fluorescent weird paint had been painted on the ground, right? And the locals had painted over it black, and that hadn't worked. You could still see the glow of the red through the black. And so they put turf on top of it. And anyway, they told me it was an identifier, a mark that could be picked up from the air by Russian planes to be able to, you know, work out where they were supposed to strike, where they were supposed to. But the person that made the mark, they believe, is someone from their village, and they can't work out who it is.
Wow.
I mean, that's just like frighteningly freaky, and you know that the enemy's amongst you. And look, it's a fascinating conflict, I'll tell you that.
Will you stay safe, Chris? We really appreciate you giving us some time to talk to us here in Adelaide. Thank you.
Thank you, Rezo.
Anytime, guys.
Chris Reason, who's one of the best reporters in this country.
He is a brilliant journalist, that guy. And I'd tell you what, he's a braver man than I am when it comes to my idea of covering a conflict. Give me a nice, ugly Eastern Suburbs Liberal Party pre-selection brawl any day. Standing around the middle of Kiev, not my cup of tea. And had an amazing level of sang-froid, coolness of blood, to use a French term that Luce would be familiar with, but just, you know, just there like he's covering any other news story. And these guys, as Piers Morgan tweeted overnight, like, you know, don't want to get too schmaltzy about it, but it is courageous. Nothing as courageous as the Ukrainian people, though, and vitally important to get news from people who are actually there.
Dave makes the point on the Telstra Storm out Barker text on whatever these journos get paid for heading over to war zones. I'm just going to assume it's not enough.
If your business could do with more business, you should try advertising here on the radio. FIVEaa can help turn your brand into a household name. We could do it with a jingle, or a really funny ad, or something deadly serious. Our audience is big enough to fill Adelaide Oval again and again. Get in touch with FIVEaa to find out how we can give your business more business.
If you're thinking of a pool in your backyard, just be aware that 2022 spots are filling up fast at Rainwise Pools. We chatted with the guys about this the other day, David. They're not joking. They're not mucking around. The book is full of people that want to get pools and got organised early because the current demand is unprecedented. And remember, part of the decision process should always be whether the company you're dealing with adheres to the Australian standards of manufacturing and installation, and these guys do.
That's right. It was good. It was great catching up with Ross and Darren last week. And look, you deal with Rainwise as we did last year. It's all about getting on the board, as they call it. And I reckon I spoke to them in July, and within a couple of months managed to get on the list, and we got the pool just in time for Christmas, which was fantastic. But if you want to get one this year, as Will said, you'd better put the foot to the floor. And I tell you, this is the best decision that we ever made as a family. It's absolutely fantastic, particularly during a lockdown, having a pool in the backyard. And we love that Rainwise is a family-owned and run local South Australian business. They've got quite a few awards under their belt too, including SA's Fiberglass Pool Builder of the Year 2021.
Now's the time. Do your research and lock in a date for your pool to be installed this year. Get in touch with Rainwise now. They'll help you every step of the way. Visit rainwisepoolsadelaide.com.au.
9 News is the one that's always been live and local. 9 News, made in Adelaide for Adelaide.
Online, on DAB Digital Radio, and on 1395 AM. Talking Adelaide. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers a possible storm 27 today with the 8 o'clock news. I'm Mel Usher.
Physio Extra offers clinical Pilates and group exercise classes claimable on private health. 6 locations. physioextra.com.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is ordering his nuclear deterrence forces to be on special alert as Ukrainian and Russian delegates agree to peace talks. Amelia Adams reports from Lviv.
The Ukrainian and Russian delegation will meet on the Ukraine-Belarus border within hours, and they need a breakthrough. The situation here is dire and escalating. The capital, Kiev, is surrounded by Putin's troops. It's been hammered by more shelling and missiles today. Civilian evacuations have been halted due to heavy fighting in every direction. And here in Lviv in western Ukraine, officials fear the city could be the Russians' next target after the capital. Concrete tank barriers and sandbanks moved into the streets, thousands of Ukrainians camping out, planning their escape from the war.
In other developments today, Ukraine's launched a lawsuit against Russia in the top court of the United Nations, accusing the country of planning a genocide of Ukrainians. Russian airline Aeroflot has cancelled all flights to European destinations. It comes after the European Commission shut down EU airspace to Russian planes. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has attended a service at the Ukrainian Catholic Cathedral in London, lighting a candle in honour of all those affected by the Russian invasion. 3 separate crashes have left 2 people dead and 1 seriously injured. A 26-year-old man is in the RAA after he came off his motorbike at Gawler Belt last night, while Senior Constable Kylie Simpson has told David and Will the carnage on our roads began about 12 hours earlier when a car hit a tree at Meadows.
Sadly, the driver and sole occupant of that car, a 19-year-old man from Inman Valley, died at the scene, and only hours later patrols were called to Redbanks Road at Kangaroo Flat after a Holden sedan left the road and crashed into a tree. And again, sadly, the sole occupant of the car, a 23-year-old woman from Wadsley's, died at the scene.
It's off to court today for a man found in a stolen vehicle. Just after 9 last night, police were called to Churchill Road at Kilburn after reports of a man acting suspiciously around cars. A 34-year-old from Elizabeth Downs was found sitting in the driver's seat of an SUV that had false number plates. Checks revealed the car had been stolen earlier this month from Mitchell Park. Patrols searched the vehicle and found more stolen plates in the boot. 4 vintage cars have been destroyed in a fire at Morphett Vale. Fire crews were called to Prince Charles Street just before midnight and found a rear shed well alight. A man was treated for smoke inhalation by paramedics at the scene. Nicole Ely from the MFS says it took 30 minutes to bring the flames under control and another hour to completely extinguish the blaze.
The fire's cause is believed to be accidental and electrical. Damage to the garage and contents is estimated at $150,000.
The flood emergency continues on the eastern seaboard. The heavy rain, which fell in Brisbane for days, has moved further south. Lismore residents in northern New South Wales are being told to evacuate. The town's levee has failed, releasing floodwater into Lismore's CBD. And in Brisbane, a major flood warning is in place, with the Brisbane River expected to peak in the city this morning with the high tide at around 4 metres. Now turning to 5AA Sport, here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. Adelaide and Port Adelaide's players will train today as they prepare for Saturday's pre-season showdown to be played at Richmond Oval. Meantime, West Coast will be without Dom Sheed and Campbell Chesser for a large chunk of the season after both picked up injuries in the practice match against Fremantle. Elliot Yeo also suffered an ankle injury. Meantime, Brisbane has set a record for the biggest AFLW score. The Lions led West Coast 46-0 at the half-time, going on to win 98-24. The Brisbane side eclipsed the previous record score of 87-0 set by Carlton last year. Let's go to soccer. Liverpool's League Cup champions after beating Chelsea 11-10 in a dramatic penalty shootout. There was one other game in the English Premier League, West Ham jumping up to 5th following a 1-0 win against Wolverhampton.
Antonio, cross the face of goal, and turned into the back of the net as well. West Ham United grab the lead.
Audio thanks to Optus. 3-time Supercars champion Scott McLaughlin has won his first IndyCar race, winning this morning in St Petersburg, Florida. Aussie Will Power finished 3rd. Australia's cricketers are in Pakistan and are now preparing ahead of Friday's first test. Meantime, the second test between New Zealand and South Africa is evenly poised heading into day 4 in Christchurch. The Proteas to resume their second innings at 5 for 140, giving them an overall lead of 211 runs. To basketball, the 36ers playoff hopes are looking shaky following a 3-point loss to the Sydney Kings yesterday. The Sixers also lost against Illawarra on Friday night. And the governing organisations of boxing have released a joint statement declaring they won't hold any title fights in Russia due to the invasion of Ukraine. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
At Holden Hill, got residual delays from an earlier smash, North East Road to Grand Junction Road. 2 Wars got a collision, Old Port Wakefield Road near Artesian Road. At Shepparton, look out for road plates in use. That's Port Road near George Street. Speeds are reduced and down to 40 k's. And look out for cameras, Robe Terrace North Adelaide and Supple Road at Waterloo Corner. Every business owner knows there's two kinds of busy: drowning in admin bad busy and to-do list ticking good busy. Get good busy with myob.com. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Get amazing deals on Mitsubishi and used cars at Wayville Mitsubishi and Southern Mitsubishi, driven by Australian Motors.
Showers, a possible storm, 27 today, 27 tomorrow and 28 on Wednesday. Right now it's 20 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
We're Lumo Energy SA, fully Australian owned, locally focused, proud community partner of the Adelaide Fringe. Oh, and we have great deals on electricity and gas too.
And Lumo Rewards.
Ah yes, and local offers and discounts with Lumo Rewards. You really do get more with Lumo SA. Call 131 5866 or search Lumo. SA residential customers only. Lumo Energy SA not available in all areas. Eligibility criteria and conditions apply. See website for details.
Gliderall Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderall.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
10 minutes after 8. Election at 8 coming up in just a moment. We'll speak with Toop and Toop as well for our weekend real estate wrap. We shifted some things around just before 8 o'clock there, so we could cross to the city of Kiev and speak with Chris Reason from Channel 7, who gave us quite a detailed, extraordinary report of what life is like there at the moment, what they're expecting to happen in both a political and a strategic sense. It was a fascinating chat. You will be able to hear it if you missed it by listening to the 5AA Breakfast podcast. It's available shortly after we come off air each and every day. Remember, everyone who participates in the show leaves a comment on the Telstra Store Mount Barker text line, calls in, jumps on the live stream comments, sends us a tweet, whatever it might well be. You're all in the running to win tickets to see 360 All-Stars in Flamingo at Gluttony. We'll announce that just before 9 o'clock today. Gluttony back in Rymel Park for 2022. You can get your tickets for the biggest shows, including 360 All-Stars at gluttony.net.au or search Adelaide Fringe today. Let's talk election.
SA decides. Election at 8.
I feel like, Dave, we should go back a few days before we get into what happened most recently. Your newspaper, The Australian, revealed a news poll the day after we finished talking election late last week that told a pretty ugly picture for the Premier and the government. Two-party preferred, they trail 53-47. The gobsmacking one, though, for everyone is preferred Premier, with Peter Malinauskas leading by a margin of 46 to 39, 7% difference. And reading the coverage you wrote about on the weekend, that would have to, Marshall would have to overcome all of history, news polling history, to win it from here, being not preferred.
That's right, with the exception of one other election in the history of news poll, which goes back for about 30 years now, and it was a South Australian election, which is pretty recent in people's minds, the 2010 election where Mike Rann beat Isabel Redmond and held on as Premier, even though Ms Redmond was ahead of Rann as preferred Premier. But we were quite strong in our comments on Friday morning about the lacklustre Liberal campaign so far. And I've got to say, if the Liberals do lose the election, and there's no guarantees that they will. I mean, there's been polls that have been off the mark before. Although I would note that the gap between Labor and the Liberals and the gap between Peter Malinauskas and Stephen Marshall in Saturday's news poll is much higher than the margin for error. So it suggests that even with some slippage on those figures, Labor could still form government, probably in its own right. But I was scratching my head yesterday watching the announcements from both sides, and as noble as the Liberals' plan for the zoo upgrade is, and it certainly looks like it'll be a lot of fun, I'm not sure if when Peter Malinauskas stood up and announced a $120 million plan to end ambulance ramping, whether he thought that the Liberals would try to blindside him by announcing a Perspex giraffe enclosure. That's what happened, in addition to unveiling their kayaking policy. A canoe for every South Australian, whatever it was, paddling in reservoirs and so forth. The story of this campaign so far was exemplified in the 7:30 news with Mel Usher saying that the debate has been framed, and this is week 2. Bear in mind, Labor spent all of last week with a health announcement every single day. So at the start of week 2, the lead item in the news this morning on radio, and it would be the same on every other channel, is Peter Malinauskas is talking about his plan to end hospital ramping. Meanwhile, the Libs are going to upgrade the zoo. Now, today's the day where the Libs need to shift the debate, get it back onto the economy, and start smashing Labor around the head about how they've lowered taxes, they've stabilised the energy supply. You know, play the old grabs of Tom Koutsantonis on this very station when he was Energy Minister, talking about how, you know, a large part of the state's infrastructure had been blown over, and as a result, we were plunged into a blackout. The Libs aren't talking about any of that stuff, and if they are, it's not cutting through. So yesterday, you can either fix ramping or you can go and look at a giraffe on the banks of the River Torrens and spare me. Who's in charge of their campaign?
Here is Peter Malinauskas yesterday speaking in front of a crowd of disgruntled paramedics.
The problem is that your ability to be able to do your jobs has been impeded, not through a lack of effort on your part, but through a lack of effort on government's part.
Yeah, that was courtesy of Channel 7 last night. 350 paramedics and ambulance officers to be recruited over some 4 years. Another martial policy announced yesterday was the park and ride facilities upgrade and express bus services between Mount Barker and Adelaide. And if you want about $19 million worth of improvement announced. Now, if you wanted to say that the headline discrepancy yesterday was actually a product of a strategic choice, you might argue that they're trying to be more targeted and win this on a seat-by-seat basis as opposed to doing the big headline-grabbing stuff across the state. Maybe. You only know the outcome of that kind of strategy on election day. But you have to imagine there's got to be more than this, doesn't there? And the result of that poll on Saturday surely moves up the timetable. If there's a big announcement coming from this state government, it has to happen sooner. Because the only benefit they get from that poll, in fact, is that it happened 3 weeks out from the election, or a couple of weeks out from the election, and not 2 days before. You can still do something about it at this point.
The other thing the poll does is it increases the pressure on both leaders in very different ways. It makes the prospect of a Malinauskas government real, which in the minds of some people will be a negative. And, I mean, you think back to Nick Xenophon. I mean, at the start of the last campaign in 2018, Xenophon was preferred premier.
Yeah.
And remember, you really, in one of our interviews, Will, you really nailed Xenophon to the wall. It was like, okay, you could be premier. Tell us about your health policy. Tell us about your tax policy. And every answer was, well, we're certainly going to look into that, and we're going to have a royal commission into the health system, and we're going to review this, and we're going to review that. And suddenly people went, oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
This bloke who's currently on track to become the premier can't answer basic questions. So the expectations increase for Peter Malinauskas massively, and there's an opportunity there for the Liberals. Conversely, and this is where the psychology of the premier comes into play, is Stephen Marshall mentally equipped to get through the next 3 weeks knowing that on Saturday's figures, most people like the other guy more? I don't know if the answer to that question is yes.
After 8 each and every day in the lead up to the election, we'll take you through the developments of the previous 24 hours and give you a sense of where the election's at. But we learnt plenty over the weekend, that's for sure. Let's do our weekend real estate wrap with Susanna Toop from Toop and Toop. Susanna, we wanted to cross to Kiev, so we've just moved you a little bit later. So thank you for being accommodating, but some pretty extraordinary stuff is going on around the world at the moment. How was the weekend real estate-wise?
Oh, look, I mean, I completely understand what everyone's been glued to the TV ever since things broke out over there. So I think as well, in terms of what that means for property prices, I think that's what's on everyone's mind as well. But in terms of the weekend, look, we had some great auctions in Norwood, West Hindmarsh, Kernlight Gardens and Dover Gardens. In West Hindmarsh, there was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom family home with a pool. Stunning floorboards throughout, and it went under the hammer on Saturday and sold for $1.105 million. And our team achieved a huge result in Kernlight Gardens. 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, newly renovated, beautiful home with a pool went to auction, and it broke the previous suburb record by over $130,000 and sold for $1.86 million there in Kernlight Gardens. So huge results are still coming through. There's a lot of people still trying to get their hands on property here in Adelaide, and we're certainly seeing that at auction day. And prices continue, and new records still being set as we head into March.
Now, the Garden suburb be feeling pretty happy if you got a slice of the Colonel Light Gardens action about 10 years ago when everything was about half the cost of what it is today. Hey, also, Susanna, tell us which suburbs are tipped to be the good ones to invest in 2022?
So look, we're seeing really great results still in suburbs like Norwood, Parkside, Prospect and North Adelaide. But I think if we look to the up-and-coming ones for 2022 and the ones that we're certainly keeping an eye on, I'm loving south of the city. I think there's huge upside there, the northeast and the pocket between the beach and the city. We just look at suburbs like Eden Hills, Belair, Golden Grove, Goodwood and Broadview. They're all seeing vacancy rates below 1%, which is just incredible. And Eden Hills, Green Acres and Seacombe Gardens have all seen rental returns which are 43% higher than the average in metropolitan Adelaide. So I think there's still a huge amount of upsides. We're certainly speaking to a lot of investors every day trying to get their hands on property here in Adelaide. And the main thing that they're loving is that you can still get property for around the $450,000 mark in these suburbs, which means there's still so much potential and upside coming for these pockets, and we're certainly seeing huge demand right out on the ground from tenants wanting to get their hands on property, and they're paying for it in these suburbs. They're just really, it's that perfect mix of affordability, but also really great rental returns coming through in those areas.
Good on you, Susanna. Thank you for that. Susanna Toop from Toop and Toop with our weekend real estate wrap. It's 20 minutes after 8 and time to check traffic. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thanks, Will. At Belair, got a smash on Upper Sturt Road near Hawthorndine Drive. Holden Hill, residual delays from an earlier smash. That's North East Road at Grand Junction Road. 2 Wires got a collision, Old Port Wakefield Road near Artesian Road. And a few cameras on the drive-in today. First Avenue, Edinburgh, Lefevre Terrace, North Adelaide, and the North-South Motorway at Bolivar. Optus NBN is rated number 1 for average download speeds by the ACCC. Why wait? Switch to Optus NBN today. As per Measuring Broadband Report, 15 December 2021. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Rowie Sports Show.
Port Adelaide, well, they went down to the Gold Coast Suns by 21 points. Their development coach, Matty Lockin, joins us. Oh boy, what did you make of that?
I probably didn't go, being honest, it's exactly the way we would have liked, but it's not all doom and gloom. We've had a really good summer. We got some good things out of the game, and we also need to improve some things as well.
4 p.m. weekdays.
A big problem for a lot of games last year was your start. It's pretty much the same, 6-2 to 1-5 at quarter time.
It's something that we do need to improve.
Rowie Sports Show on 5AA.
We lost Dad to prostate cancer.
Breast cancer nearly took Mum away.
My little brother is living with leukemia.
My pa caught his bowel cancer early.
Make your donation as personal as your story. You can target the cancer that's hurt you most with Cancer Council SA. Learn more or donate at cancersa.org.au.
If a new in-ground pool is on your family's radar, do the wise thing and talk to Rainwise Pools. Wise, because Rainwise Pools are a family-run and operated business with strong family values at the core of everything they do. Wise, because Rainwise Pools have won multiple awards here and nationally. Wise, because Rainwise Pools offer a 30-year structural and the new Claw Shield technology on all fiberglass pools. Be pool wise. Visit rainwise.com.au. 2021 Fiberglass Pool Builder of the Year.
Now, this is great news. Genesis Care and Adelaide Oncology and Haematology have partnered to provide integrated cancer care services.
Genesis Care is the largest provider of radiation oncology services in South Australia, whilst Adelaide Oncology and Haematology has a specialised team of medical oncologists, haematologists and allied health professionals. Together, they provide integrated cancer care and support all stages of a patient's cancer journey.
The new partnership means they provide an integrated approach to cancer care in which each patient has a dedicated team of specialists who tailor treatment plans and care specifically to their needs, and that's been widely documented to improved patient outcomes.
Cancer patients in South Australia can now receive access to integrated cancer care and support at all stages of their treatment journey. For more information, call Genesis Care on 8228 6700. That's 8228 6700.
Sometimes little things can turn into big things. Jammed garden taps, blocked watering systems. Give Ken a call today and see how easy and affordable it is to fix them. Give Ken a call. Ken Hall Plumbers, 8364 5855.
Here at 5AA, we're all about supporting local. Don't miss a Defiant, a celebration of rebellion and fierceness told through an explosion of acrobatic feats and phenomenal live music. Book now at gluttony.net.au.
9 News is the one that's always been live and local. 9 News, made in Adelaide for Adelaide.
Gliderol Garage Doors new Platinum and Native Series sectional doors are here. Gliderol.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
24 minutes after 8. Well, if you think war in Ukraine doesn't affect you here in Adelaide, I challenge you to go and try and fill up your car today. Fuel Watch, thanks to the MyRAA app. Find the cheapest fuel in an instant. Download the free MyRAA app. MyRAA app. I added an extra R in there. From the App Store today. You know the RAA. You don't need me to explain it to you. So here's where we're at. Most outlets are in the $90s. Now, here's cheap. This is cheap today. And it's never been this high in the history of Fuel Watch. BP on the run, Grand Junction Road, Jeps Cross, $1.85.7. $1.85.7. United South Road, Melrose Park, $1.89.9. The Mogas, McGill Road, McGill, $1.85.9. Just a reminder, I'm reading out the cheapest we've found it. Diesel's in the mid-$80s, and the cheapest we found diesel was the ex-convenience Main North Road, Jeps Cross, $1.68.9. So you can getting diesel cheaper than you're probably getting unleaded at the moment. So that's the situation fuel watch wise. Also, South Aussies can find the cheapest fuel in an instant. Download the free MyRAA app today and check it out. If you find it somewhere cheaper, do let us know. Lots of texts coming in on the Telstra Storm Mount Barker text line on our election wrap and some of the things going on around the world. Con says FIFA have got a massive decision to make. Poland will not play their qualifier semi-final in Putin's home city of St. Petersburg. They'll not play Russia anywhere, even if it's moved. And they're not the only ones now, Con. Sweden, Czechia, the UK and others have said they're not going to play Russia as well. And you're right, FIFA have a huge decision to make. On the state election, Peter says, gentlemen, are Labor serious about reassessing the Crows bid for the Bowden site? It's really a big issue for me and my vote may rest with it. Seeking an unequivocal promise that it will be seriously reconsidered. The decision by the government hit home to me that Marshall is not a leader, just hides behind the recommendations of others. Well, this is where I guess, David, people have take different degrees of heart. Some people say, well, he's committed to review it. That's great. Others say, well, committing to review isn't a commitment to change anything. And
no, that's right.
That's for Peter to assess for himself.
A big part of that poll on Saturday, though, we made this point even before the campaign started, and I think quite sympathetically, and I had a senior Liberal say this to me last week, that if the election was held last year, Marshall would have romped it in, because at that time everybody was sort of rallying behind the government. The satisfied-dissatisfied rating for the Premier at the moment, 48% satisfied, 47% unsatisfied. It's almost a dead heat.
Yeah.
And so much of that is the numerical reflection of the friendly arguments that are happening within every household and every workplace at the moment about the borders opening. You know, for everyone who, like me, I've used the term before and I'll use it again, I think it was courageous that Marshall did it. Other people say it was idiotic. And the chasm between those people, half the state thinks it was courageous, half the state thinks it was reckless, and that's where the timing could potentially couldn't be worse.
Amy says, my 9-year-old Poppy is enjoying hearing about the conflict in Ukraine and the, in quote, liberated and Labor parties. I asked her why. She said it's a nice change from COVID. Yeah, Amy, all we can say to Poppy is the world gets better than this, Poppy. It's just having a rough trot.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Is it ever?
Yeah,
Crikey.
it really is.
Well, to be back in a day where we start the show going, what the hell are we going to talk about? There's nothing happening.
Remember
nothing
that?
better. Nothing better.
Judy says Peter's plan to do something about ramping should also include proper training and triage done on the phone calls for an ambulance and cut out the unnecessary use and need and abuse of the ambulance system. Thank you for that. Someone else says, even though veterans camped on Parliament House steps every day, Labor still got rid of the repat. Can you trust a Labor government with our state? Roger, in a sort of similar vein, says, I've texted before, Peter Malinauskas promising game circuses and shiny things. The AMBO numbers, for example, over and above the recent increases in natural attrition. I'm just asking. And on the weather, we're going to text lightning and thunder and rain at Greenways Landing. Thank you for that. It's 28 minutes after 8. 5AA News is coming up. Everyone who's texted us, everyone I just read out then, and even the others we haven't got to, all in the running to win tickets to see 360 All-Stars. Keep your feedback coming in, and we'll have more for you, including some more information from the flood situation in Queensland right after this.
We're Lumo Energy SA, fully Australian owned, locally focused, proud community partner of the Adelaide Fringe. Oh, and we have great deals on electricity and gas too.
And Lumo Rewards.
Ah yes, and local offers and discounts with Lumo Rewards. You really do get more with Lumo SA. Call 131 5866 or search Lumo. SA residential customers only. Lumo Energy SA not available in all areas. Eligibility criteria and conditions apply. See website for details.
A kid's playground, rubbish. A park bench, rubbish. A nature boardwalk, rubbish. You see, the Australian government is helping industry to transform your old rubbish into incredible new things. Proudly remade in Australia. Like this outdoor gym, rubbish. Even this brand new road, rubbish. Every time you recycle, you're helping to remake Australia into a better place for everyone. Remade in Australia. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
If you're looking for a personal alert system for an elderly loved one, make sure you pick a system that has been tried and proven. Care Alert has been providing peace of mind for over 15 years. If ever there was a time you need to have the ability to get emergency help while alone, it is right now. Whether you have a sudden illness or a nasty fall, or even hear intruders trying to break in, just a press of a button and help can be on its way. Do yourself a favour and call Care Alert on 1300 75 85 95 or go to carealert.com.au.
About me, she's like dying.
Explore Australia's biggest arts festival at Adelaide Fringe from the 18th of February to the 20th of March. With over 1,000 shows, act now and get your tickets. Supported by principal partner Bank SA. Search Adelaide Fringe today.
We all want a better life and to be able to enjoy it in our own homes. If you or a loved one needs some help to enjoy a better life at home, Southern Cross Care is here for you. Our home care services are led by qualified and compassionate health professionals who will help you take care of yourself, your health, your home and your garden. To find out more, visit southerncrosscare.com.au. Southern Cross Care. Better for life at home.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Showers a possible storm and 27 today with the 8:30 news. I'm Mel Usher.
Physio Extra Marion have a hydrotherapy pool now on site. Contact Physio Extra Marion or head to physioextra.com.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has agreed to hold talks with Russia at the Belarus border. It'll happen near the Chernobyl exclusion zone. It follows a phone call with Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko. Meantime, Russia's nuclear deterrence forces are being put on a special alert. President Vladimir Putin says it's in response to aggression from NATO.
I order the Minister of Defense and the Chief of General Staff to put deterrent forces of the Russian army on special combat standby duty.
That translation thanks to Sky News UK. The Ukrainian president has thanked Australia for its support as the country comes under siege from Russia. Australia is providing $3 million to help Ukraine buy non-lethal military equipment and medical supplies. The federal government is also working through a package to provide the country with weapons. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says Australia stands shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine.
I actually got a message from the President of Ukraine last night, very appreciative of what Australia is doing and the stance we're taking, but also extending our support to lethal aid support. We're working that through with our NATO partners now. The most effective way to do that is through them.
Anthony Albanese is closing in on Scott Morrison when it comes to preferred Prime Minister in the latest news poll. Just 2 points now separate the leaders. The opposition is ahead of the coalition, 55 to 45, two-party preferred. A fire at Morphett Vale has been deemed accidental and electrical. Just before midnight, emergency services were called to Prince Charles Street, where a rear shed was well alight. Damage has been estimated at $150,000. And Nicole Ely from the MFS says a man was treated by paramedics at the scene for smoke inhalation.
It's believed the man had been working in the garage when he heard a loud noise and noticed fire. The man evacuated safely, but the fire quickly took hold, destroying 4 vintage cars and materials such as tools, paint thinners and a welder.
2 people are dead and 1 has serious injuries following 3 separate crashes yesterday. Just before 7 yesterday morning, a car hit a tree at Meadows, killing a 19-year-old man from Inman Valley. Senior Constable Kylie Simpson says a few hours later, a 23-year-old woman from Wasleys was killed when her car hit a tree at Kangaroo Flat.
Major crasher investigating both of those fatal crashes, and those 2 lives are the 11th and 12th lost on SA roads compared to 16 for the same time last year.
While a motorcyclist came off his bike at Gawler Belt and remains in a serious condition in the RAA. And a new COVID testing site has opened this morning. It's at Hamra Avenue in West Beach. It's walk-in only. Now turning to 5AA Sport, and it's over to Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. Let's start with football. Port Adelaide will be keeping a close eye on several key players as it prepares for Saturday's pre-season showdown against the Crows. Ruckman Scott Lycett rolled his ankle. Sam Powell-Pepper appeared to aggravate a hamstring, while Connor Rosie suffered a minor ankle complaint in the 21-point loss to Gold Coast. Let's go to soccer. Liverpool has beaten Chelsea 11-10 in a penalty shootout to claim the English League Cup.
Arisa Balaga, right-footed, he skied it over the bar into the Liverpool fans, and that is it. Liverpool have won.
That call there from the BBC. Meantime, West Ham's push for a top 4 finish remains a possibility after a 1-0 win against Wolverhampton in the EPL this morning. Rafael Nadal's incredible start to 2022 has continued after he took out the Mexico Open, beating Cam Norrie in the final. He's now won a staggering 15 straight matches and 3 titles, including the Oz Open. Meantime, Russia's Andrei Rublev has won the Dubai Championship after a straight sets win against Yuri Vesely. Irishman Shane Lowry is the outright leader with 3 holes to play in the final round of the Honda Classic in Florida. He's currently 9 under, putting him 1 shot clear of American Daniel Berger, who started the day with a 5-shot lead. Brett Jewett is the only Aussie who made the cut, and he finished at 5 over and is in a tie for 55th. And the Sydney Kings have beaten the Adelaide 36ers to lift themselves to 2nd on the NBL table. The result, though, leaves the Sixers battling back in 8th spot. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
At Blair got a smash on Upper Sturt Road near Hawthorndine Drive. 2 Oz got a collision on Old Port Wakefield Road near Artesian Road. Fairburton, look out for road plates causing a hazard on Port Road near George Street. Speeds at 40 k's with cameras Supple Road, Waterloo Corner and North-South Motorway at Dry Creek. Get 12 months free roadside assistance when you get your car serviced at Australia's #1 car service company, UltraTune. Search UltraTune to find a service centre near you. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Get amazing deals on Mitsubishi and used cars at Wayville Mitsubishi and Southern Mitsubishi, driven by Australian Motors.
Showers, a possible storm 27 today, a possible shower tomorrow 27, then clearing and 28 on Wednesday. Right now it's 20. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Gliderroll Garage Doors' new Platinum and Native Series sectional doors are here. Gliderroll.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
23 minutes to 9 behind closed doors is not too far away. We're giving away those fringe tickets before 9 o'clock as well. Spent a bit of time this morning talking about what's happening in Queensland. I want to get a sense on the ground as we approach what the Weather Bureau in that state had determined would likely be the peak of the Brisbane River sometime between 8am and 11am this morning at about 4 metres. It's half a metre shy of the 2011 Brisbane flood peak, or at least that was the forecast. We'll find out now what the reality is. Nick Kelly for Channel 9 in Queensland joins us on 5AA Breakfast. Nick, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
So what's it like there?
Yeah, look, everyone's obviously drawing comparisons between now and the 2011 floods, and as you said, the peak is, quite a fair bit lower than what it was back in 2011 when they had to release all that water from Ivanhoe Dam upstream from Brisbane. But the reality is that the flooding is a lot more widespread than it was back in 2011, and there's suburbs that have never gone under before that in some places are even up to the roof.
Nick, we were saying at the start of the show, it's hard for us as South Australians and particularly as Adelaideans to get a sense of just how up close and personal these flood waters are. I mean, this is the equivalent of the Torrens bursting its banks for us, because there's been so much growth along the river there in the Brisbane city and inner suburbs, hasn't there? That this is basically dozens of suburbs we're talking about that are facing this potential deluge over the next 3 hours.
Oh, absolutely. And to put it into perspective, normally they'd issue a alert suburb by suburb when it comes to flooding and evacuation orders and things like that. Well, last night Brisbane City Council literally just released pretty much an Excel spreadsheet because there was 100-odd suburbs that were flood affected. So, that probably gives you some perspective. And obviously, the river flows right through the middle of the CBD, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of streets cut right across the southeast. Even the M1, in fact, the main motorway that goes from Brisbane to the Gold Coast is cut in a few places. The motorway to the Sunshine Coast has been cut for several days. So there's a lot of people cut off and stranded right now.
So to look at it, Nick, I mean, is there evidence of things, lots of cars trapped at the moment? Is the water going to recede and we're going to find out that a hell of a lot of, stuff that people rely on is for want of a better word, stuffed? Oh yeah, there will be a lot of cars that are write-offs. People that just park where they normally would, and have been unable to get to their car to move it. I was actually at a Coles shopping centre yesterday, in New Farm, which is an inner city suburb, and the underground car park there was up to the ceiling of the underground car park. And speaking to locals, there was at least a few cars in there that had been floating around until the water got all the way up. So there's a lot of cars, and also the Brisbane River itself. The power of the water has been ripping pontoons and boats off their moorings. So there's $1 million boats floating down the river, still attached to pontoons, and this is all just floating out into the ocean.
Unbelievable. So Nick, tragically there has been loss of life. 7 people have tragically died as a result of these floods. Those fatalities, did they occur in Brisbane itself, or were they in regional Queensland?
Yeah, no, there has been there's been a couple in Brisbane. There one overnight, very close to Brisbane, but they've all been, certainly in the southeast. So within a couple of hours of Brisbane at the most.
Yeah, hard, as I said, it's hard to imagine the scale of it, and we hope. Is it still the projection that the river's going to peak by about 11 o'clock this morning?
Yeah, that's certainly the hope, and it has stopped raining here. But the thing is, it takes about 16 hours for water to get from the catchment area, the Brisbane River, the furthest part of the catchment area, to the city. So there's still a bit of holding your breath and waiting, because even though the rain stopped early this morning, it was still bucketing down, and so there's some places that have received 1.5 meters of rain, which is more than the annual rainfall total. They've received that in 48 hours.
Nick, do people in Brisbane, on the ground in Brisbane or around Queensland, is it do people just accept that this kind of flooding is simply a part of where you live? Or are people now saying, look, if we're going to get something this significant every 5 years, there should be some sort of permanent solution invested in?
Yeah, look, if flooding is certainly a part of living in Queensland. We often get down in the southeast, we'll get the tail end of cyclones, which, will often dump a huge amount of rain. The problem in this case, talking to our weatherman Gary Youngbury last night, he said that normally when that happens, the rain sort of originates offshore, and then you catch just the last little bit, on land. But this storm is actually developing inland in the middle of Australia and coming in. So the rain is sort of, we were starting to flood before it even started raining here. So that's that hasn't helped. But these kinds of large events certainly send shockwaves to the community. We're used to minor flooding here and there, but when it's entire suburbs going under, that's certainly a shock to the system, and particularly after 2011. A lot of these suburbs are uninsurable. The insurance companies won't touch them. There's 2 or 3 that will insure, and the premiums, you could be paying $15,000, $16,000 a year for insurance, which for most people is just out of the question. So a lot of these people, unfortunately, don't even have insurance.
That's just
staggering.
Extraordinary.
$16,000 a year, my God.
Nick, thank you for that, mate. We really appreciate it. Hopefully it clears up there sooner rather than later.
Thanks, guys.
Nick Kelly for
Good
Channel
on you,
9
Nick.
in Queensland. Imagine that. Imagine being told. Imagine moving to a part of the country and being told, "Oh yeah, home insurance." Oh no, not where you are,
Yeah,
mate.
we don't do it. But I mean, to Nick's story, New Farm is like the equivalent of living in say, Brompton.
Right.
Just a little real inner suburb, beautiful suburb in Brisbane, very trendy, a lot of good cafes and restaurants and so on. But imagine driving down to your local Foodland. Like, think of the Foodland, say, the one you'd probably have gone to, Will, down on Military Road there at Henley. Imagine being on the out the back, trying to turn there near Star of the Sea to get into the car park.
Yep.
The water's up to the ceiling of the roof.
Yeah, it's an unfathomable amount of water. And that just happens all too often now for me. Like, it's happening. It's not like a 1 in 100 years. It's one in just a couple of times in a decade now. David in Mile End is on the line. I want to speak to David about. Do you remember before nuclear Armageddon and wars and floods? David, we gave away trips to Uluru. Those were the good old days. Well, David went on the trip to Uluru on the private plane and did all that whole kind of thing, and he's come back to tell us all about it. David, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
How was your trip, mate?
It was a wonderful experience. Like you say, so much has been happening and haven't had time to do such a thing, so it was awesome.
So just take us through. I haven't been on the trip. My mother-in-law's been on, and I've heard her talk about it. What was the highlight for you?
The highlight was the charter from Adelaide. So we went straight through, not through Sydney, not through Melbourne. And on the way up, we got to fly directly over Uluru. And doing that in itself was worth $500. And we did a couple of laps around. And then we did a few experiences like the Sound of Silence dinner and got to see the stars in absolute darkness and silence. And, of course, the Field of Lights as well. And that was a wonderful view. Amazing, amazing stuff.
Had you ever seen it before, mate?
No, first time. So surreal seeing how big it was and just the level of detail and everything around as well at this time of year was really green because of the rain. So it was red earth and green bushes everywhere.
Everyone I know who's gone to Uluru says it's one of those things like, I've heard people say, I went to France, I went to Paris, and I sort of queued up for ages, got to the Eiffel Tower, and it was like, well, yeah, there's the Eiffel Tower. Not quite as sort of the sensory overload you'd expect from being so familiar with it. But everyone I know who's been to Uluru says, that it's there, there's this giant ruddy great rock in the middle of nowhere. But when you actually see it, you go, wow, that is so overwhelming.
Yeah, that's right. And there's so much detail when you walk around it and the caves and the water holes. And it's just, it's never ending. So much to see up there.
Well, glad you had a good time, David. Everyone who's been on this trip says it's great, and we enjoyed the partnership, being able to send off a whole bunch of listeners on it. So thanks for calling us and letting us know how it all went. David and Milo, who won that wonderful Uluru trip, just what feels like years ago, amazing. But it was just a couple of weeks ago.
I'd be happy just going down the road at the local supermarket.
Yeah, we might give away an opportunity for you to walk to the end of the street come Wednesday, David, if you're lucky enough to win it. All right, let's check traffic. Back in a moment.
Thanks, Will. At Belair got a smash on Upper Sturt Road near Hawthorndine Drive. That's causing delays this morning. 2 hours got a collision Old Port Wakefield Road near Artesian Road. Fairburton, look out for road plates causing a hazard on Port Road near George Street. Speeds at 40 k's. And got a few cameras. Anzac Highway in the Parklands, Gawler Road, Virginia, and One Tree Hill Road at Gould Creek. Go month to month at Good Life Health Clubs and enjoy over 90 clubs nationwide, 24/7 access and a huge range of group fitness classes. Visit goodlife.com.au. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Under 16 years of Labor, South Australia was going down a rough road. But the road is a lot smoother now. Under the Liberals, we've had the highest economic growth in the nation and our lowest unemployment rate in more than 40 years. A re-elected Marshall Liberal government will support businesses to keep employing and training young people. Why risk going back to Labor? Together, let's build a stronger future. Authorised by S. Meldrum, Liberal Party of Australia, SA Division 104 Greenhill Road, only SA 5061.
There are nights when you enjoy listening to quiet, empty streets. Then there are nights when all you want to hear is a siren in the distance.
SA ambulance, what's your emergency?
Oh, but please help. My daughter's not breathing. I need an ambulance.
I'm organising...
The Marshall government cut $11 million of ambulance service funding in its first 2 years, leaving our ambulance service in crisis. South Australians are dying for more ambos.
Authorised L. Watkins Ambulance Employees Association of SA, Adelaide.
If you're looking into buying a new bathroom or kitchen, you want to reno yours. Well, of course, you want the outcome to be spectacular, but what you don't want is a bunch of stumbling blocks along the way, including broken promises.
Well, you won't have that problem if you deal with the excellent people at Buy Urban Bathrooms and Kitchens, where they never make a promise they can't keep. And in the unlikely event of a delay or something not going to plan, you won't find out by accident because Coxie or one of his team, they'll be on the phone quick smart offering a solution.
It's all about the journey. Coxie and the entire team go to extraordinary lengths to ensure the whole process is trouble-free. Start your journey to a stunning and worry-free home renovation with Buy Urban Bathrooms, Kitchens, Flooring and Shutters. They are Adelaide's home renovation experts. Visit buyurban.com.au.
The passing of someone close places unique stress on family and friends. At this time, Farrell and O'Neill Funerals are here to provide reassurance and peace of mind. Farrell and O'Neill offer creative guidance and advice to tailor a service that best honours your loved one. Whether a large gathering or a small, intimate service, Farrell and O'Neill share their generations of experience in tailoring a unique and meaningful farewell. Proudly SA family-owned and operated, because it's personal.
9 News is the one that's always been live and local. 9 News, made in Adelaide for Adelaide.
Gliderall Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderall.com.au.
You're listening to 5AA Breakfast. David Penberthy and Will Goodings.
10 to 9. James texted us on the Telstra Storm Mount Barker text line. Says, my son lives about 10 k's from Brisbane and his record of rain since the first of the year shows 1,007 mils. 1,007 mils. Luckily, he's above Brisbane, but today going to work, he's had to keep to the main highways. It's too uncertain which of the lower roads are even passable. I sent him our probable rain forecast, and he's laughing. Thank you for that, Jane. I bet he is. We might get, somewhere around 8 mils of rain.
It is weird, though, because I woke up this morning quite excited about it. I was looking at the BOM app going, oh, you beauty, I'm going to turn the sprinklers off. Getting some decent rain. Decent rain. It's about 2 minutes worth of rain in Brisbane in the last few days.
All right, let's go behind closed doors thanks to Aussie Fast Transport Solutions. They're looking for subcontract drivers right now. Call 13 13 64. That's 13 13 64.
And when we get behind closed doors,
Myland, Tea Tree Gully and the West Beach Driving Range.
Now, folks, if you're catching up with mates this weekend, it's always a great idea to start at Sip and Save.
Right, people.
They have everything you need for a great weekend.
Or if you're Studley Corns, they have nothing you need.
Now, get ready to sit back and relax with your mates, our mates, at Sip and Save.
I'll be there, West Beach Sellers. Hang on, Benny boy.
Yes, Sam on the Broadway down there.
How do you know, Stud?
Now, look, check out these great deals. Cooper's Dry 24 packs, $43.99.
That's a good price, that one.
That's less than $2 a can.
This next one's yours, Stud.
Wild Turkey Cola.
That's it, that's the one.
10 packs, 4.8% alcohol.
You can handle 4.8%, Stud.
I don't drink, Ken. Wild Turkey 10 packs. What was that?
That was me gobbling, Stud.
Sound like a goose when you do that.
Oh, no, it was a turkey.
Anyway, 10 packs, $41.99, and Russian Standard Vodka. Oh, hang on.
Oh, no, Studley, no.
Don't mention the war. Let's just call it Standard Vodka, 700 mils only.
It's okay, Studley. It's perfectly acceptable to be making light of a devastating European outbreak of war? No problem at all, stud.
Well, that's lucky then. Only $35.99.
Gee, that's a steal.
And for even more great specials,
Like taking someone else's country.
head in store or visit sipandsave.com.au.
Great people.
Or to make it easy for you,
Good people.
Sip and Save have 1 hour delivery or pickup available in selected areas.
I'll be there after the show.
Just download the app.
I live there now because I'm too old to travel.
Or shop online at shop.sipandsave.com.
have to do a bloody driving test every year now.
.au.
Behind closed doors, thanks to Aussie Fast Transport Solutions. They're looking for subcontract drivers right now. Call 13 13 64. That's 13 13 64. The Australian government, this morning and across the day, we expect to hear plenty from them on the situation in Ukraine. Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg was on Nine's Today Show a short time ago. Here's what he had to say.
Well, this is another escalation in a very dangerous and concerning crisis. And obviously there's the humanitarian fallout where hundreds of thousands of people are moving across the border looking for shelter. There are people cowering in bomb shelters in Kiev right now as we speak, and obviously hundreds of lives have already been lost. Putin's the aggressor here. There's no act of self-defence. He was not threatened by Ukraine, and what he has done is completely unacceptable.
We a fascinating day on financial markets here in Australia, and indeed tomorrow in the United States and around the world as they react to the sanctions and what are effectively counter-sanctions, restrictions of trade, and the price of oil. There's going to be a lot of volatility, you would imagine. Koshi, incidentally, we'd usually speak to it about this time, and that's precisely the sort of question we'd put to him. But Sunrise are doing a special on the flood situation in Brisbane at the moment.
Yeah, inspired by the typically excellent John Blake sketch then as well, the question of Russian vodka. It's being addressed by a lot of retailers across the Western world that are, and not just retailers, not just liquor stores, but also bars, pubs, cocktail bars are actually pulling Russian vodka from their shelves or refusing to use it in cocktails and so forth. If you're going to ban the vodka, you've got to make sure you ban the right ones, though, because a lot of them come from the Baltic states.
A lot of them from Poland.
A lot of great ones from Poland, Will. And one of the most popular, Grey Goose, that's actually French. So there's plenty of good non-Russian vodka.
Be careful.
Around.
Don't throw it all vodka. Don't throw the vodka out with the bathwater.
Think before you tip.
Yeah, exactly. Read the label carefully.
Don't throw the vodka out with the bathwater.
Now,
is that a malapropism?
I think it is. A
malapropism, like, without shedding an eyelid.
Yeah, that's right. It's a very modern one. Now, before we get to your headline of the morning, I think we should give away the opportunity for a listener to explore Australia's biggest arts festival at the Adelaide Fringe. We've got tickets to see 360 All-Stars in the Flamingo at Gluttony, and everyone who contributed to the program this morning was in the running to win this. Gluttony back in Rymel Park for 2022. Get your tickets for the biggest shows this Fringe at gluttony.net.au or search Adelaide Fringe today. We're going to give it to Jane, who just texted in a short time ago off the back of our cross to Queensland about the flood situation there to tell us. We always love people texting with their rain gauge readings and what they've learned about the suburb they're in. We always hear from Sue in Christie's Beach. We heard from a few other people on precisely that a little bit earlier in the morning. Well, Jane told us her son's rain gauge reading from Brisbane, where it was 1,007 mils since the start of the year. So, Jane, you can go off to the Fringe in the relatively dry conditions here in Adelaide, and we'll have more for you for everyone who contributes to the program over the course of the week. Time for a headline, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. Ready to go. Liberals announce canoeing policy as search continues for paddle.
That's just begging for it. You really shouldn't do a canoe policy of any description, should you?
I know.
No exit policy
for trouble.
Imagine
if you'd at least you had the presence of mind not to pose in a canoe.
Yeah, that's there are lots of those sorts of things that are always sort of the never do's in politics, like never hold a press conference under an exit sign. That's one you never do.
Never pull a plug out of a wall. Never stand there trying to operate a switch. Anything like that. And also be extremely careful. Ball games can get you in a strife. There was a There was a German election campaign when Helmut Kohl was still the Chancellor. He tried to play soccer with a kid, and he kicked the ball. It came off his toe, and the ball hit this kid square in the face and gave him a blood nose.
No, you don't want that.
Didn't end well for poor old Helmut.
No. 2 minutes.
Who could forget John Howard bowling in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I'm not sure that hurt him in the end, though. It was just a very funny clip. 2 to 9, we're out of time. Tomorrow morning we'll have the latest on the situation in Queensland for you. Of course, we'll be all across what's happening in Ukraine, and we'll cross back there. The other thing we're doing tomorrow, though, because it can't all be sad news and unhappiness. We're celebrating 100 years of Cadbury on the program tomorrow morning. So that is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Stick around. Graham Goodings is coming up, and we'll see you tomorrow morning from 6.